Chapter 1091. Resplendent flames erupted from the demon ox formation as they slashed out with their flaming swords, aiming for the body of the demon. However, the demon directly used his hands to block the flaming swords, corroding them bit by bit. The body of the demon blasted out once more as the corrosive green light enveloped the demon ox formation. Every beam of green light was incomparably sharp, directly piercing into the demon ox formation. Yi Qing unceasingly controlled the demon swords, causing a storm of flames to envelop the body of the demon ox, clashing against the corrosive green light. Yi Qing isn't suitable to control the demon ox formation. Qin Wentian was in the middle of the battle formation, and could clearly see the battle between both parties. Although Yi Qing was very strong, the energy she was proficient in didn't seem to be compatible with the demon ox formation. Also, the innate techniques of the demon ox formation were all based on Yi Qing. Everyone's energy was used to form the demon ox formation, ultimately transforming it into a gigantic demon ox. This energy was actually unleashed by Yi Qing. This was supposed to be a demonic and wild power, but Yi Qing's forte leaned towards dexterity. Although she was very strong and had a lot of battle experience, she was still in a state of being suppressed by the demon's attacks. Captain, your strength isn't enough to unleash the full power of the demon ox formation. Qin Wentian spoke. The eyes of everyone flashed as someone asked, Tianwen, what do you mean by that? Saying such words at this moment would definitely shake the morale of the troops. I'm thinking if I can control this battle formation. Qin Wentian brazenly spoke. Yi Qing's beautiful eyes flickered as she stared at the battle. Right now, she was indeed in a suppressed state. Her opponent's devil battle formation was extremely powerful, and its corrosive properties were extremely strong. The person controlling the battle formation was able to unleash the full power of the formation, completely suppressing her. Tianwen, although your combat prowess is high, our captain is the strongest among us. Even if we have to change our captain, it should be Captain Xiao. Stop messing around. Someone at the side berated. This fellow was simply too ridiculous. We can try. But at this moment, Yi Qing actually spoke. Her brazen idea caused everyone to be startled. Their captain actually agreed to Qin Wentian's crazy idea? Qin Wentian, who was at the second level of Immortal Foundation, would be the one controlling the formation? This battle formation gathers everyone's strength to transform into a demonic bull, possessing the terrifying might of a greater demon. If Tianwen is proficient in offense, he should be able to unleash the tyrannical might of the demonic bull. It's indeed worth a try. Xiao Yihan also spoke, supporting Qin Wentian's idea. Both captains agreed. Bang! A violent sound of collision rang out. They were all knocked back as cracks appeared on their battle formation. Yi Qing roared in rage. Instantly, a fearsome immortal might transformed into a demonic bull that galloped towards his opponent, blocking his opponent's battle formation. Tianwen change. Yi Qing roared. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as two beams of light flashed. Qin Wentian and Yi Qing actually swapped positions. Qin Wentian was now at the center of the battle formation, gaining control over it. In an instant, Qin Wentian had a strange feeling. He was the soul of this battle formation. The gigantic demonic bull was controlled by him, and all its energy was under his control. The comprehension abilities of immortals were extremely high, and their adaptability was even stronger. In an instant, Qin Wentian felt that he had already adapted to the control of the demonic bull formation. Qi, a terrifying whistling sound rang out. An extremely corrosive green spear shot out from the body of the devil, directly piercing towards the demonic bull, instantly penetrating through the immortal light surrounding it. Careful. Xiao Yihan reminded Qin Wentian. Boom. Qin Wentian's aura erupted forth. At this instant, he had a feeling that the power of the demonic bull formation was circulating according to his own strength. The demonic bull howled in rage. An ancient halberd that glowed with a dark golden light appeared. Violent, wild, and destructive, it clashed together with the green spear. Instantly, a destructive shockwave danced in the air as both sides crumbled apart. Beautiful. Xiao Yihan praised. He could sense the attributes of Qin Wentian's strength. There was a tyrannical destructive attribute, a tyrannical suppressive attribute, and a wild demonic attribute. The power of the demonic bull formation was infused with these attributes, causing the attacks it unleashed to be even more violent. It was truly more suitable than Yi Qing's. A cold snort rang out from the devil formation. Countless green pythons appeared in the air, looking extremely malevolent as they lunged towards the demonic bull, wanting to devour it. Qin Wentian's countenance was calm. The energy in his body erupted forth frenziedly. The entire demonic bull formation shone with resplendent runes, transforming into an indestructible fiend god body. The demonic bull howled in rage, shaking the heavens and earth. Numerous terrifying demonic dragons appeared, wanting to devour everything, clashing against the green pythons, directly devouring them as they rushed towards the body of the devil. In the surroundings of the two battle formations, there were many other formations that were engaged in a terrifying battle. However, all of them were actually fighting in an orderly manner. This was the fearsome combat quality of an immortal army. They were able to remain calm in the face of danger. Roar! The demonic bull let out another heaven-shaking howl. Numerous demonic bull phantoms manifested, glowing with a golden light as they frenziedly rushed towards the body of the devil. Qin Wentian's palms manifested. The demonic bull abruptly slammed out, slamming into the body of the devil, causing the devil formation to tremble violently. The Immortal Foundation experts within the formation were all stunned. What's going on? Their opponent actually became stronger after changing? Their countenances were all unsightly to behold. The person who changed was none other than the person who had the best killing blow in the life and death battle earlier. That person was wearing a mask. Qin Wentian didn't give his opponents any chance to catch their breaths. He blasted out yet another attack. Demonic dragons shook the skies, wanting to destroy everything. The gigantic palms of the demonic bull also slammed out unceasingly, wanting to annihilate everything. At this moment, the demonic bull transformed into an ox demon king, standing tall in the air. It had a humanoid form but had a pair of horns and an incomparably gigantic demonic palm. Rumble! A thunderous sound rang out as the devil formation collapsed. At this instant, the gigantic palm of the demonic bull slammed down, instantly killing over 10 people. Without the formation, it was simply a one-sided battle. Flee! Those people fled in the direction of the other battlefields. The demonic bull's palms crushed everything, frenziedly slaughtering those who died, causing the people in the battle formation to be in a daze. With Qin Wentian controlling the battle formation, it was actually several times stronger compared to Yi Qing. Qin Wentian glanced at the battlefield. Battle formations clashed against each other, and those whose formations were destroyed would find others to fight against. In this vast battlefield, there were experts dying unceasingly. These people who died were all immortals. On the battlefield, the lives of humans were the most worthless. In a war between immortals, the lives of immortals were similarly worthless as well. They died unceasingly. These characters who could become hegemons in a particle world were like weeds being harvested. If you didn't kill your opponent, you would be killed. Tianwen, if you can reach the peak level of Immortal Foundation, you would be invincible on the battlefield, becoming a killing god. Plundering military merits would be as easy as taking something from your pocket. Xiao Yihan laughed. This was the first time they obtained such a great victory, completely defeating their opponents and killing more than half of their opponents. All the battle merits would be counted to their team. Tianwen, let's kill the enemies. Everyone spoke. Qin Wentian nodded his head. The gigantic humanoid ox demon shone with a resplendent light, growing stronger and stronger. It was like a true fiend god body, and every step it took caused the heavens and earth to rumble. It was unknown how terrifying the might it exuded was. With a single stomp, several experts from the Dongshengshan Gate were trampled to death. A dazzling light pierced the eyes of everyone. The other battle formations could feel how dangerous this battle formation was. Qin Wentian controlled the ox demon and slaughtered its way into the crowd, unleashing powerful attacks. Demonic chi engulfed the heavens and earth as destructive might swept through everything. It was like a god of death, killing a single person with a single strike. The battle formation was on the verge of collapse after a few clashes. Not long after, Under the control of Qin Wentian's Ox Demon formation, there were already 400-man battle formations that crumbled apart. Hundreds of experts died in their hands. Such an achievement caused everyone in the group to be extremely excited. Only now did they recall the situation when Qin Wentian first arrived. Seems like Qin Wentian and the others were truly the direct descendants of the immortal Qianbian Gate, and came here to temper themselves. If not, how could all of them be so powerful? Jun Mengchen defeated his opponent with a single punch. Qin Wentian allowed his opponent to attack him without budging, before killing his opponent. Right now, he was controlling the battle formation, transforming into a demonic god. However, the Berserk Ox Demon formation controlled by Qin Wentian also successfully attracted the attention of the Dongshengshan Gate. Two battle formations appeared before Qin Wentian and the others. At the same time, there was another battle formation rushing over, wanting to encircle and annihilate Qin Wentian and the others. Not good, we've become the target of everyone. Xiao Yihan's eyes narrowed. Although Qin Wentian was very strong and the power of his battle formation had reached another level, he still couldn't withstand the encirclement and annihilation of the battle formations. If a few battle formations attacked at the same time, it would be very tragic. However, at this moment, the experts of the immortal Qianbian Gate also saw the scene and rushed over. For a moment, with Qin Wentian's battle formation as the center, the army pressed over, as if it had become the gathering point of the storm. The Demon Ox Demon controlled by Qin Wentian became even more dazzling, released to the extreme, as if it was wrapped in a light screen, just like Qin Wentian himself. It had terrifying defensive power. Kill! With an explosive roar, a battle formation rushed over. It was a sword formation, and a gigantic sword slashed down, piercing into the resplendent light screen. However, the speed of the sword was reduced as it sank deeper and deeper into the light screen. The demonic ox's roar shook the heavens as a wild and savage aura engulfed the heavens and earth. The fist of destruction blasted onto the gigantic sword, shattering it. Tens of thousands of swords shot out at the same time. Countless gigantic swords rushed over. Suddenly, a towering sword might surged from the Demon Ox battle formation and struck forward. The swords devoured the heavens and earth, clashing with the gigantic swords. Chapter 1092. The Demonic Ox Battle Formation roared. The experts from the other battle formations discovered that the body of the demonic ox was still expanding. In an instant, it expanded to 10 times its original size, resembling a true ox divinity. Boundless runic armor covered its body, giving it the body of a demon god, undying and indestructible. From the side, a tyrannical demon battle formation blasted over, slamming into the light screen, yet it was blocked by the runic armor. The experts in the battle formation were all incomparably shocked. Kill our way over. The experts from the immortal Qianbian Gate rushed over when they saw so many battle formations surrounding the demonic ox battle formation. Qin Wentian controlled the ox battle formation as an incomparably violent demonic palm imprint blasted out. This palm imprint contained an incomparably savage aura, directly wanting to engulf the entire battle formation. With a thunderous boom, 100-man battle formation of the Dongshengshan Gate was shattered. The experts in the formation all coughed out blood as their countenances turned pale. However, when Qin Wentian attacked because his body was too gigantic, he also suffered from many tyrannical attacks, causing the blood and qi of the experts in the formation to fluctuate. Also, Qin Wentian's control of the battle formation caused the energy of their immortal foundation to be depleted at an extremely rapid rate. Some of those with weaker cultivation bases already faintly felt that the immortal energy in their immortal foundation was insufficient to sustain the battle. The other battle formations of the immortal Qianbian Gate all rushed over. With Qin Wentian's battle formation as the center, chaos ensued. The battle was extremely violent and the casualties were extremely heavy. Immortal Foundation experts fell one after another, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. Boom boom boom. Qin Wentian stepped out step by step. The gigantic ox unceasingly blasted out a heaven-shaking might. It was unknown how many battle formations were destroyed in his hands. The number of experts from the Dongshengshan Gate, who died in this battle formation had already reached over 1,000. This was simply terrifying. This was equivalent to 1 killing 10, and it was still continuing. However, there were people in the Demon Ox battle formation who wanted to continue fighting. They had never been so awe-inspiring before. This time around, the battle merits belonged to their entire team. Each of them would at least be able to obtain low-grade battle merits. However, some people were already running out of strength. Because the demonic ox battle formation Qin Wentian controlled was extremely powerful, the immortal Qianbian Gate also had a great advantage in this battlefield with Qin Wentian at the center. They slaughtered their way into the heart of the enemy army and slaughtered many experts. It could be said to be a great victory. However, compared to the battlefield where Qin Wentian was at, the other places were losing time and time again. Many of the Dongshengshan Gate's troops were well trained, including the Nightmare Demon Army and the Flame Army under the command of the Deep Flame Immortal King. All of them were extremely powerful. Looking down from the void, one could see that the entire battlefield was very unfavorable for the immortal Qianbian Gate. Qin Wentian and the others had charged into the heart of the enemy, and it was also very dangerous. There were already many strong cultivators there, and Qin Wentian and the others would be trapped inside. One person's combat power seemed to be strong enough to control the entire battlefield of 100,000 soldiers. The eyes of that military governor flashed. He stared at Yi Qing's team and spoke. Yi Qing's team retreat. He already discovered that many in this battle formation had already exhausted their immortal foundation energy. If they continued fighting, their formation would collapse and they would fall into the heart of the enemy army. Only death awaited them. Qin Wentian instantly made a decision and rushed towards the back, preparing to retreat. Although he didn't have the time to pay attention to the battlefield, he also understood that this battle wasn't in their favor. Immortal Qianbian Gate's army, get into formation and retreat. Don't panic. The military governor commanded again. On the battlefield, the troops of the immortal Qianbian Gate formed a 100-man formation and retreated step by step. Their movements were extremely stable, and there were no signs of panic at all. Although it was clear that they were on the losing side, they still retreated in an orderly manner. This was simply an immortal war. Unless their formation was completely destroyed, they would only flee in panic. The military governor of the Dongshengshan Gate didn't say anything. Their army knew what to do and they continued to launch ferocious attacks, crushing their opponents. The momentum of the entire battlefield gradually shifted to their side. Their opponents were forced to retreat again and again. They only needed to chase after their enemies. The Dongshengshan Gate's army continued to slaughter their way into the heart of the retreating immortal Qianbian Gate army, not fearing death at all. However, at this moment, a bright light flashed as two large-scale 1,000-man battle formations suddenly appeared within the retreating immortal Qianbian Gate. With a roar of rage, they lifted their hands and destroyed the Dongshengshan Gate's army that was chasing after them. Get into formation, don't panic. The military governor of the Dongshengshan Gate roared. However, the immortal Qianbian Gate's army continued to attack, wanting to stop their retreat. It was as though they wanted to engage in a decisive battle with the Dongshengshan Gate's army, killing many of their enemies. Stop the pursuit. The military governor of the Dongshengshan Gate roared. A moment later, the army halted as both sides split up, forming an orderly formation. The immortal Qianbian Gate army was still retreating, but the Dongshengshan Gate army didn't continue their pursuit. Instead, they got into formation. Earlier, the pursuit had caused them to suffer heavy casualties. They didn't want to fight like this. Retreat. The military governor of the immortal Qianbian Gate roared. A moment later, the experts of the immortal Qianbian Gate retreated. Dust billowed as sand filled the air. This battle of 200,000 troops had come to an end. The Dream Demon King was still sleeping like a giant. A voice suddenly rang out in the minds of everyone. Clear the battlefield, retreat. The experts of the Dongshengshan Gate army felt their hearts trembling. From the sound of this voice, it seemed that the Dream Demon King wasn't very happy with the situation. This time around, they sent out an army of 100,000. They were prepared to destroy the immortal Qianbian Gate army in a single move. Even if they couldn't do so, they wanted the immortal Qianbian Gate to pay a heavy price forcing them to retreat from Yuan City and slowly devour the Thunder Prefecture. However, after such a terrifying battle, they didn't seem to have too much of an advantage. Although they obtained victory, they didn't achieve the desired effect. If they continued to pursue, their Dongshengshan Gate army would also suffer heavy casualties. If that was the case, it would be impossible for them to occupy Yuan City and devour the Thunder Prefecture. One could only say that to both sides, this battle was a defeat. Only after the immortal Qianbian Gate army retreated far away did they disperse their battle formation. Many of them heaved a sigh of relief, feeling extremely fatigued. Many of their immortal foundations were almost depleted. Maintaining the battle formation was simply too taxing on their immortal energy. However, the moods of everyone were somewhat depressed. They suffered heavy losses in this battle, and were the defeated side. The strength of the Dongshengshan Gate army was clearly stronger than them. Tianwen, well done. If it wasn't for you, we would have been in danger this time around. Xiao Yihan stared at Qin Wentian as he spoke. This battle was a clash between 200,000 strong. It was extremely dangerous and there were many casualties. If it wasn't for Qin Wentian replacing Yi Qing to control the battle formation, it was highly possible that they would have died as well. It wasn't easy for them to survive such a huge battle. That's right, Tianwen, it's all thanks to you this time around. Everyone stared at Qin Wentian. Before this, they had some misunderstandings about Qin Wentian, thinking that he was a newbie with no battle experience. They didn't expect him to be so powerful, consecutively contributing to the battle. During the 9-man life and death battle, Qin Wentian unleashed a fatal strike to boost the morale of the army. After that, he disrupted the battlefield, and even affected the flow of the battle. Although he had no way to control the entire battlefield, he was still extremely powerful. We are the ones who implicated Tianwen. Yi Qing suddenly spoke, her words causing the eyes of everyone to flash. Xiao Yihan fell silent for a moment before he added, "Indeed, if we were in the elite battle formation, with Tianwen controlling the formation, the might of our battle formation would be even more terrifying. We would be invincible and invincible. Tianwen, given your performance today, you can even be transferred to the elite battle formation. Why don't I apply to the army supervisor?" Yi Qing stared at Qin Wentian as she spoke, her words causing the eyes of everyone to flash as they stared at their captain. "Captain," someone called out. Their captain was too selfless. If such an expert stayed in their team, it would be considered a huge contribution, and would be able to play a huge role on the battlefield. Yet their captain actually allowed Qin Wentian to join the elite battle formation. "Let's talk about this later." Qin Wentian calmly spoke. Everyone could already see the city gates of Yuan City. After returning to the barracks, they counted the casualties as well as the battle merits. Qin Wentian's team had achieved top-grade battle merits, causing the members of Yi Qing's team to be extremely happy. With top-grade battle merits, they could exchange them for extremely abundant resources, and even peak-grade immortal weapons. "Tianwen, the battle merits are all yours. You can use them to exchange for rewards. I don't think anyone would have any objections." In the training grounds of the barracks, numerous teams were gathered together. Yi Qing spoke to Qin Wentian. There were some who agreed, but there were also some who didn't say anything. Qin Wentian knew that some people would be unhappy if he said this. In addition, he wasn't lacking in such things. He shook his head. "Captain, go and collect the rewards and distribute them to everyone. I don't lack them. Seems like you are a core disciple of the immortal Qianbian Gate." Xiao Yihan spoke. At this moment, a group of people walked towards Yi Qing's team. Yi Qing glanced at them and transmitted his voice to Qin Wentian and the rest. "They are from the elite battle formation." "What's your name?" The person in the lead stared at Qin Wentian, who was still wearing a mask, as he asked. "Qin Wentian replied. "Our battle formation is made up of elites. Do you want to join? I can request for you from the military inspector." The other party spoke. "My senior brother is going to join the elite battle formation. Can the authority to control the entire battle formation be passed to him?" Jun Mingchen asked. "No way." Although his performance in this battle was outstanding, he still has to work hard step by step. The members of our elite battle formation are all at the upper 3 levels of Immortal Foundation. It's already an exception for Jia Na. The authority to control the battle formation cannot be passed to him. That person shook his head. Jun Mingchen's lips twitched, feeling somewhat unwilling. Qin Wentian smiled. No need, I'm fine with this team. You really don't want to consider? That person asked. No need. Qin Wentian shook his head. That person didn't say anything more and brought his men away. You shouldn't have rejected. Yi Qing bitterly smiled. The elite battle formation was made up of elite experts. It's nothing. Qin Wentian smiled. I still have some friends who are rushing over. At that time, we can form the strongest elite battle formation. Chapter 1093. For the next few months, the Dongshengshan Gate didn't launch any more large-scale attacks. Qin Wentian and Jun Mingchen kept a low profile in the army camp. Their identities were very sensitive, and they had already attracted the attention of many on the battlefield. In order to prevent their identities from being exposed, they naturally had to keep a low profile. However, there would occasionally be a few small-scale battles that caused the immortal Qianbian Gate to suffer some losses. Qin Wentian also knew that in the Thunder Prefecture, the immortal Qianbian Gate was constantly recruiting Immortal Foundation experts. Although the number of people willing to join the army against the Dongshengshan Gate was very small, because the population of a prefecture was simply too vast, there would always be people joining the army. The immortal Qianbian Gate could only rely on this method to continue fighting and resist the invasion of the Dongshengshan Gate. During these days, Qin Wentian and his battle team participated in many small-scale battles, and their performance was outstanding. In the battle team, Qin Wentian's prestige grew higher and higher, and he was already appointed as the vice-captain. In fact, Qin Wentian even had the intention to give up the captain position. A second-level Immortal Foundation expert becoming a captain was something that had never happened before in the history of the immortal Qianbian Gate. However, Qin Wentian didn't agree to it. It didn't matter to him whether he was the captain or not. On the battlefield, what Qin Wentian wanted to do was to kill his enemies, temper himself, and destroy the main force of the Dongshengshan Gate. He also wanted to kill the person who had once acted against Qin Yao and Luo Huan. However, he still hadn't found an opportunity to do so. His opponents were from the elite forces of the Dongshengshan Gate. Although their battle formation was already very strong under his control, it would still be somewhat difficult for them to fight against an elite battle formation formed by the main force of the Dongshengshan Gate. War knows no time. Everyone only wanted to survive on the battlefield and grow stronger. This was the same as when they were cultivating. Unknowingly, time flowed by. This was especially so for the large-scale immortal wars in the immortal realms. Sometimes, the battles would last for hundreds or even thousands of years before the victor could be decided. At the God Hand Mountain Manor, outside the ancient mountain, time flowed by. It has already been 7 to 8 years since the immortal kings and emperors gathered at the God Hand Mountain Manor. Outside the ancient mountain, many people had already left due to impatience. Only the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor and the Violet Emperor still sent people to guard this place. However, these guards were already growing impatient. However, they didn't dare to disobey the orders of the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor and the Violet Emperor. In the depths of the ancient mountain, within the Immortal Palace, the bronze gate slowly opened as a figure wearing a bronze mask walked out. His immortal sense extended into the distance, but he didn't discover anyone. He then returned to the bronze gate and not long after, he led a group of experts out. These people all had extraordinary auras, and were all wearing masks. They didn't say a single word and directly sped towards the exit. When he was about to reach the outside of the ancient mountain, the bronze-masked figure suddenly stopped. He actually began to carve a matrix on the ground. He brought out a spatial treasure in his hand, infusing the matrix with powerful spatial energy. He could even see the exit. Although the ancient mountain was sealed by a mysterious power, he could still use spatial energy to leave through the exit. There are immortal kings outside. After we teleport out, I will seal our auras. You guys follow me and don't wander around recklessly. If not, with the immortal sense of an immortal king, even if we teleport very far away, we would still be discovered. The bronze-masked figure spoke. Everyone nodded. Yes, Saint Lord. Also, when we are outside, don't refer to me as Saint Lord, Qin Wentian instructed. They stood within the formation and at the same time, a sealing energy gushed forth from him, isolating their auras. An intense spatial light flashed as a beam of light shot out, shooting towards the horizon. Outside the ancient mountain, many Immortal Foundation experts were bored out of their minds. All of a sudden, a spatial fluctuation could be felt. After that, they only saw an intense beam of light shooting out, instantly vanishing before their eyes, as though it had never existed before. Not good, spatial teleportation. Those people exclaimed in shock. After that, a terrifying might gushed forth as a figure hidden in the shadows directly soared up into the air, exuding the might of an immortal king. His immortal sense frenziedly swept out, enveloping the entire area within his immortal sense. Nothing? That immortal king swept his gaze over. He then stepped out and instantly vanished from his original location. Nothing. That immortal king's silhouette flickered, his countenance extremely unsightly to behold. The Dongxing Heaven Emperor asked them to guard this place for 7 to 8 years, and when they finally came out, the other party actually managed to escape. How was he going to explain this to the Dongxing Heaven Emperor? In fact, right now no one knew the identity of this immortal king. In the future, as long as this immortal king removed his mask, it would be extremely difficult to find him again. The youngest son of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, Dongxing Ting, died just like that? Most probably the immortal emperor would definitely be enraged. In Yuan City, there were some elites who invited Qin Wentian, but they were still rejected by Qin Wentian. Right now, the attacks launched by the Dongshengshan Gate were getting more and more intense, and they would often send out their elites to attack. There were a few times when Qin Wentian and his troops had no way to defend against the other party's Immortal Foundation experts. Hence, the Dongshengshan Gate had already started to treat Qin Wentian and his troops as elites. Today, the Dongshengshan Gate sent out tens of thousands of troops to attack again. The Immortal Qianbian Gate also sent out a similar number of experts. They didn't send out their entire army because everyone knew the movements of the other party. If the other party sent an army to surround them, the Dongshengshan Gate would directly retreat and mock the Immortal Qianbian Gate. This was meaningless. They might as well accept the battle directly. The Immortal Qianbian Gate suffered another defeat. When Qin Wentian and the others returned to the camp, Xiao Yihin cursed in a low voice. Right now, the pressure from the Dongshengshan Gate is getting tighter and tighter. We don't have enough elites to defend against them. Many of the troops from the Dongshengshan Gate were originally trained by them. Now that they are sent to the front lines, our combat prowess is naturally at a disadvantage. Most probably, the next wave of attacks won't be far away. Yi Qing spoke. I can sense it as well. The Dongshengshan Gate will most probably launch an all-out attack soon. Qin Wentian nodded. Just as they were speaking, the sound of a war horn rang out once more. However, this time around, it wasn't the horn for the entire army to move out. Instead, it was the horn for the entire army to gather. All the soldiers immediately rushed to the military field, only to see the military governor Immortal King appearing there. He then spoke in a clear voice. The previous battle at the Dongshengshan Gate was the vanguard. Right now, their main army has split into two, preparing to launch a pincer attack on us from 3 different directions. The attack this time around will be even more ferocious compared to the frontal attack earlier. The Dream Demon King has given a death order, not allowing his army to retreat. He has to take us down no matter what. A pincer attack from 3 different directions. Seems like they have sealed off all their paths of retreat. The eyes of everyone flashed. This was an immortal war, a pincer attack from 3 different directions. Once the battle erupted, both sides would clash head-on. It would be extremely difficult to retreat, hence they could only fight. To all of you, the victor of this battle would be the victor, the loser would be the king. At the same time, this battle is also a good opportunity for you all to obtain battle merits. Do you all have the confidence? The military governor Immortal King's voice rumbled out. Everyone roared in unison, "Fight!" Good. Now I will assign the battle strategy. Charge straight into the heart of the enemy and launch a frontal attack on their elite forces. If Yuan City falls, we will seize their Han City. That military governor Immortal King roared, his words causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. What a crazy plan! Did they want to gather the strength of the entire army to annihilate the main force of the enemy forces before charging into Han City? Since the battle strategy has been decided, the entire army should move out immediately. If not, the enemy forces would adjust their formation as well. The various armies moved out, but there were still many battle formations that remained on the drill ground. Among them, the battle formation Qin Wentian was included. Yi Qing just heard the voice transmission, telling her battle formation to stay behind. The others all stared at Yi Qing as they called out, "Captain, there's a special mission assigned to us." Yi Qing spoke. After that, everyone no longer spoke. They knew that the military would send out some powerful battle formations to carry out special battle strategies. They didn't expect that it would be their turn. Wait, the other battle formations aren't elite battle formations. They are all ordinary ones. Everyone felt bewildered. They had been in the military for a long time and naturally had a good understanding of the various battle formations. At this moment, the army supervisor appeared, bringing a group of experts with him. He glanced in Qin Wentian's direction as he spoke. The 36 experts here will be assigned to your battle team and will take on the role of captains. In addition, you will be in charge of controlling the entire battle formation. Do you all understand? Yes. The hearts of everyone were filled with bewilderment. However, this was a military order, and they had to obey it. No one would dare to defy it. That would be a great crime. Jun Mingchen and Ziqing Xian step out. The two of you will also be assigned as captains to control the operations of the battle formation. That military governor spoke. Yes. Jun Mingchen and Ziqing Xian walked out. Over here, there were a total of 39 battle formations. Right now, Jun Mingchen and Ziqing Xian also had to take charge of a battle formation. They originally already had the ability to do so. Now the 39 battle formations will be an independent army under the command of Tianwen. Everyone has to obey his commands. Those who disobey will be killed. The military governor spoke in a booming voice, his words causing the gazes of everyone to turn to the armored figure of Qin Wentian. Seems like they had still underestimated the identity of this fellow. He must be a descendant of a major character from the immortal Qianbian Gate. Before this, they allowed him to adapt to the battlefield, and now, they finally allowed him to control an army. 39 battle formations, an army of thousands of people. This authority was already extremely great. The 36 people on the platform each moved to a battle formation and took control of it. Their cultivation bases varied, but the majority of them exuded extraordinary auras. Jun Mingchen and Ziqing Xian also took control of a battle formation. Only Purgatory and Little Rascal were still together with Qin Wentian. Purgatory wasn't proficient in controlling others. Qin Wentian soared up into the air as he spoke. "Move out! Move out, move out!" Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, those who took control of the battle formations actually responded to Qin Wentian's summon. At this instant, Qin Wentian's prestige rose to a new height. There was no doubt that he was the commander of this army. Yi Qing stared at the silhouette of Qin Wentian as she smiled. Things should have been like this long ago. Chapter 1094. 39 battle squads advanced majestically, heading towards the battlefield. Yuan City was already surrounded on both sides by the army, and was currently heading towards the immortal Qianbian Gate's army camp. However, the immortal Qianbian Gate's army was heading towards Han City in the Jing Prefecture, gathering all their forces to seize Han City. An immortal war was different from a war between mortals. In an immortal war, everyone was an immortal. They wouldn't attack the city gates. They could easily enter the city and occupy it. However, the main purpose of an immortal war was to destroy the enemy and not to occupy the city. This was meaningless. If the enemy's army was strong, they could still seize the city back. Immortal wars were always a test of strength. The Dongshengxian Gate didn't take down the city. They were here to destroy the immortal Qianbian Gate's army. This was also the reason. As long as they destroyed the immortal Qianbian Gate's army, they wouldn't even need to take down Thunder Prefecture, it would be theirs. In the immortal realms, whoever was stronger would have the authority to govern. The immortal Qianbian Gate directly gave up on Yuan City and charged towards the front. They wanted to avoid the encirclement of the enemy. General Niu knew that the immortal Qianbian Gate was at a disadvantage in terms of combat strength. That was why they chose to focus on the front. At this moment, several hundred miles away from Yuan City, the immortal Qianbian Gate's army had already arrived, clashing with the Dongshengxian Gate's elite army. A heaven-shaking battle was currently going on. This Dongshengxian Gate's army occupied more than half of the Dongshengxian Gate's army. There were actually 50,000 of them. In addition, all the elite troops were gathered here, resisting the immortal Qianbian Gate's army. Those troops from Yuan City were also rushing over. Hence, although occupying the Dongshengxian Gate seemed to be advantageous, it was actually extremely disadvantageous. Once they failed to break through the defenses of the immortal Qianbian Gate within a short period of time, what awaited them would be an encirclement from 3 sides. At this moment, an intense light suddenly flashed in the air as a gigantic spatial light screen appeared, blinding the eyes of those who saw it. In the air, in several locations, there were actually armies of over 5,000 soldiers. Each of these armies were definitely elite troops, and they were all teleported here using spatial energy. They had long been prepared for this battle, wanting to annihilate the immortal Qianbian Gate in one fell swoop. At this moment, the immortal Qianbian Gate had already broken through the supreme grand battle formation of the Dongshengxian Gate. However, their own grand battle formation had also crumbled. Both sides fought fiercely in a small-scale battle, resulting in endless casualties. In the air, the 5,000 elite troops of the immortal Qianbian Gate slaughtered their way over. Each and every formation was extremely powerful, akin to a Devil King's battle formation, exuding boundless might and invincible might. In the air, the military governor of the immortal Qianbian Gate had an extremely unsightly expression on his face. Their elite battle formation was currently fighting against the elite battle formation of the Dongshengxian Gate. Yet these 5,000 elite troops were like tigers charging into a flock of sheep, instantly tearing apart the immortal Qianbian Gate's formation, causing the internal forces of the immortal Qianbian Gate to be in a state of panic. If this continued on, it would be impossible for them to break through the defenses of the immortal Qianbian Gate in a short period of time. Most likely, it wouldn't be long before the encirclement of the immortal Qianbian Gate arrived. No wonder the army of the immortal Qianbian Gate didn't retreat when they encountered them. So it turned out that they were long prepared. Seems like this time around, the Dongshengxian Gate was determined to annihilate the army of the immortal Qianbian Gate stationed in Yuan City of the Thunder Prefecture. As long as the immortal Qianbian Gate's army was annihilated in this battle, their morale would surely suffer a heavy blow. In the future, if they wanted to recruit more troops, the Immortal Foundation experts of the Thunder Prefecture would have to think twice. After all, with the history of their army being annihilated, who would still dare to join the immortal Qianbian Gate to fight against the Eastern Sage army? The situation was extremely disadvantageous to the Thousand Transformations Immortal sect. Their formation was already in a state of chaos, and they frenziedly slaughtered their way in. The army of 5,000 continued to slaughter their way into the inner regions of the Thousand Transformations Immortal sect. Within a short period of time, over 10 smaller formations were destroyed, and thousands of Immortal Foundation experts were killed. If this continued on, the Thousand Transformations Immortal sect would definitely lose. From afar, a group of experts sped over. These people were none other than Qin Wentian and the others. Before this, they had already seen the Dongshengxian Gate, using a spatial teleportation technique to teleport over. Qin Wentian knew that the situation was bad and they increased their speed, finally arriving at the battlefield. Kill, annihilate that army of devil cultivators. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. The army that arrived later was none other than an army of the Devil Path. This army was led by the undefeatable Devil King, a general of the Eastern Sage Immortal sect. All of them were extremely powerful devil cultivators, and cultivated the Devil Path. Qin Wentian himself also killed his way into the crowd. The chaotic army behind had expressions of excitement on their faces when they saw Qin Wentian and the others rushing over. Right now, Qin Wentian's battle formation was already very well known to the people of the immortal Qianbian Gate. It was extremely powerful. In a short instant, Qin Wentian controlled the battle formation and arrived in front of a devil formation. With a lift of his palm, his opponent abruptly turned and roared. Devil palm imprints filled with towering might as they blasted over. With a thunderous boom, the two gigantic palm imprints collided with each other, causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to shatter. The eyes of those in the devil formation flashed. This battle formation actually wasn't at a disadvantage when it collided with them. With a loud roar, Qin Wentian's battle formation grew incomparably huge. The demonic ox expanded, staring down at the heavens and earth as it roared. All of you continue to attack. Leave these devil cultivators to us. A dazzling light flashed around the body of the incomparably gigantic demonic ox. It was like a demonic ox king as it blasted out a demonic dragon's might, smashing into the enemy's battle formation. A devil king's body blasted out from the devil formation, causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. Immortal energy surged wildly. Roar! The demonic ox let out a heaven-shaking roar. Both its palms slashed downwards, containing boundless divine light, capable of splitting the heavens apart. There seemed to be demonic dragons dancing within its palms as they blasted downwards, shattering the devil spears and the devil bodies. The ox's palms were unstoppable as it continued on its way towards the enemy battle formation. His opponent roared as numerous devil spears shot out. However, the demonic ox's palms were filled with spiraling demonic dragons. In an instant, tens of thousands of demonic beasts roared as they rushed out, tearing apart everything as they blasted into the gigantic body of the devil. Rumbling sounds rang out as the enemy battle formation collapsed. The experts within were all so badly shaken that they coughed out blood. Kill! Qin Wentian roared. The millstone-sized palm imprint blasted out, instantly killing half of the enemies. At the same time, the other battle formations in the surroundings also unleashed their attacks. In a short period of time, all the people in the battle formation were killed. The entire battle formation vanished, completely annihilated. At the same time, the battle formations led by Qin Wentian were all extremely powerful. They all fought against the devil cultivators, and in addition to the fact that Qin Wentian destroyed a battle formation, the morale of the immortal Qianbian Gate's army soared as they roared. Fight, fight, fight! A tsunami-like roar rang out from the mouths of the immortal Qianbian Gate's army. The military governor in the air roared. Continue to attack them, tear apart their defenses. Kill! Their roars shook the sky. The people of the immortal Qianbian Gate disregarded everything and killed their way over. They also knew that they didn't have much time, and had to tear apart the defenses of their enemies before rushing in the direction of Han City. The morale of the immortal Qianbian Gate's army reversed. They were like frenzied bulls and ferocious tigers, swiftly slaughtering their way into the heart of the enemy's formation, tearing apart countless experts. Qin Wentian's battle formation moved towards another battlefield. He didn't deal with the devil battle formation alone, but chose to coordinate with an expert from the Battle Saint tribe to surround and destroy a devil battle formation. After 3 fierce attacks, they used a few breaths of time to annihilate the devil battle formation, killing all the experts of the devil battle formation. Nothing could stand in their way. Continue to kill. Qin Wentian's voice was cold. This 5,000-strong army actually dared to slaughter their way into the heart of the immortal Qianbian Gate's army, daring to face enemies from both the front and back. Undoubtedly, this was because they were an elite army and there was a huge army in front of them, with more coming from the back. They thought that they would be able to cause chaos in the immortal Qianbian Gate. However, they didn't expect that Qin Wentian would actually lead the experts from the Battle Saint tribe over. The expert from the Battle Saint tribe controlled the battle formation. He had the Battle Saint art and had boundless might. Even God's hand was derived from it. It was a supreme combat art. Even if he couldn't suppress his opponent, he wouldn't be defeated either. As long as he could delay his opponent, the enemy would be trapped in the heart of their army. Qin Wentian continued to attack, destroying the devil army within an extremely short period of time. This caused the expression of the immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate to drastically change. Undefeatable battle formation, retreat. Where do you think you are going? Qin Wentian snorted. His destructive might destroyed yet another battle formation, destroying the immortal foundation experts within it. When he saw the devil army fleeing, Qin Wentian immediately commanded, "Ignore them, follow me." After speaking, he led the experts in the battle formation to deal with the elite battle formation of the Dongshengshan Gate. Under the encirclement of the immortal Qianbian Gate's elite battle formation, the enemy's elite battle formation had no way to defend against them. Very swiftly, many of the enemy battle formations were destroyed, and the situation became one-sided. Fight and retreat, don't panic. Our reinforcements are about to arrive. The immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate roared. Attack. The immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate only had 2 words to describe this. Right now, their combat prowess was at an overwhelming advantage. They wanted to make use of this opportunity to deal a heavy blow to their opponents. With double the number of troops, in addition to the addition of Qin Wentian and the others, they were able to destroy the elite battle formation of the enemy. This battle was starting to become one-sided. The soldiers of the Dongshengshan Gate were losing more and more troops every second. They gradually wanted to gather at one side, fighting and retreating, but their losses were still extremely heavy. Reinforcements have arrived. The immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate spoke. Behind them, tens of thousands of soldiers rushed over from the direction of the immortal Qianbian Gate. Reinforcements. In the air, the immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate mocked. Now that reinforcements have arrived, what's the use? My army of the immortal Qianbian Gate, now that you all have the advantage, why are you afraid of reinforcements? Split up and fight freely. Kill. The morale of the people of the immortal Qianbian Gate surged. That's right, they had already slaughtered half of the army of the Dongshengshan Gate. At this moment, why would they still care about reinforcements? Their numbers were no longer at a disadvantage. So what if they fought with all their might? Many of the troops at the back started to turn around, preparing to welcome the reinforcements. Qin Wentian also turned around. He had already dealt with many of the elite troops of the Dongshengshan Gate. Now it was time for him to put down the battlefield in front of him. Follow me and kill. Qin Wentian roared, leading the 39 legions to take the lead, slaughtering their way towards the reinforcements that covered the skies and covered the earth. Chapter 1095. The reinforcements from the Eastern Sage Immortal Sect didn't form into a 10,000-man formation and rushed over in haste. They gave it their all and rushed over. Only now when they saw Qin Wentian leading his troops over did they halt and form into a battle formation. Qin Wentian had already led the experts from the 39 battle formations here. Taking advantage of the fact that the reinforcements hadn't completed their formation, they directly charged in. The gigantic ox demon was like a demon god. Its roars of rage shook the heavens and earth. Terrifying greater demons spat out from the ox demon's mouth, annihilating everything in their path. At the same time, the ox demon's palm slammed down as a demonic dragon roared in rage, slamming into the enemy's formation. It was unknown how many experts were killed in that instant. The other battle formations also erupted forth with tyrannical strength at the same time. The morale of those at the back was greatly boosted when they saw this scene. Their battle intent towered up into the sky as they frenziedly killed their way into the Dongshengshan Gate's army. Before the Dongshengshan Gate could gather their strength to form a battle formation, they had already slaughtered their way into their formation. The elite battle formations of the Dongshengshan Gate were all gathered on the other side of the battlefield. There weren't many elite battle formations here, and none of them were able to resist against the powerful formation led by Qin Wentian. The Dongshengshan Gate's army followed Qin Wentian's lead and fought in all directions. The battle was actually one-sided. On the contrary, the weaker side of the immortal Qianbian Gate had a huge advantage. In the air, the expressions of the immortal kings from the Dongshengshan Gate grew increasingly unsightly. This time around they were the ones who gave the order to destroy the immortal Qianbian Gate at all costs. However, things didn't turn out as they wished. On the battlefield, The situation was changing rapidly, and their Dongshengshan Gate was now the weaker side. Seems like the Immortal Champion Gate didn't send their elite disciples to the battlefield? In the air, the immortal king of the Dongshengshan Gate coldly spoke. He naturally understood that battle formations would ultimately depend on the individual's combat prowess. It would be best if the power of these battle formations could be unleashed by a single person. The stronger the person, the greater the might of the battle formation. Be it the Dongshengshan Gate or the Immortal Champion Gate, there would be some elite disciples on the battlefield, forming elite battle formations. Therefore, he organized 5,000 people from the Invincible Legion as a surprise attack, and suddenly descended on the battlefield. 5,000 people from the Invincible Legion formed into 50 elite battle formations, which could be of great use on the battlefield. Their appearance even allowed Dongshengshan Gate to use half of its forces to fight against the people from Dongshengshan Gate, and even caused chaos at Dongshengshan Gate. One could imagine how rare it was to have elites. However, the sudden appearance of the 39 battle formation elite armament disrupted everything and reversed the situation of the battle. The realms of the members of the 39 battle formation weren't too high, but the person controlling the formation was definitely extremely powerful. Everyone retreat. The immortal king of the Dongshengshan Gate gave the order to retreat. There was no way for this battle to continue. If they continued to fight, their losses would definitely be greater than the other side. The army of the Dongshengshan Gate began to retreat. How could the experts of the Immortal Champion Gate let go of such a good opportunity? They chased after them in a frenzy. The yellow sand in the sky was dyed red by blood. The setting sun hung high in the sky, yet it was still as red as blood. After the army of the Dongshengshan Gate retreated, the army of the Immortal Champion Gate formed a long battle line. Soldiers of the Immortal Champion Gate could be seen everywhere. They drew in a deep breath, feeling completely exhausted. However, when they stared into the distance, a trace of a smile could be seen in their eyes. This was a great victory. Their Immortal Champion Gate was restricted in every aspect. They had never obtained such a great victory before, killing tens of thousands of enemies, and causing the army of the Dongshengshan Gate to flee in a sorry state. In fact, many of their elite battle formations even lost their lives. In the air, a group of experts soared through the air, heading back to the direction of the Immortal Champion Gate. They didn't truly want to take down Han City. That was merely a tactic. Now that they obtained a great victory, they naturally had to return to Yuan City. It's the army of Tianwen. The army of Tianwen is so terrifying, even more effective than the elite battle formations. The eyes of the experts in the army flashed with a strange light. This time, it was all thanks to the battle formations led by Tianwen. If not, they would have suffered a crushing defeat. Many of them looked at Qin Wentian with reverence in their eyes. This was a battlefield, and they had even forgotten about Qin Wentian's cultivation base. They had forgotten that many of them had a higher cultivation base than Qin Wentian, and were considered seniors. At this moment, they only revere the army that led them to victory. Let's return. We have to prepare a celebratory feast. Everyone returned. At the same time, there were people cleaning up the battlefield. After this battle, Qin Wentian's reputation reached a peak in the army. Everyone knew about the Tianwen battle formation and the Tianwen army. This was an undefeatable army. After this battle, the Dongshengshan Gate didn't take the initiative to attack for a long time. On the contrary, the Immortal Champion Gate would often send their army to provoke them, and there were victories and defeats on both sides. After that, the Immortal Champion Gate's army was reorganized. Qin Wentian's achievements allowed him to be officially appointed as the commander of the Immortal Champion Gate's army. He led a Tianwen army that was composed entirely of elites. There were a total of 3,600 people under Qin Wentian's command. More than half a year had passed since that great victory. In the past, Dongshengshan Gate would always have the upper hand against the Immortal Champion Gate. But now they couldn't gain any advantage at all. In fact, they didn't even take the initiative to attack. Within the Immortal Champion Gate, a sense of arrogance gradually grew. They were no longer as cautious as before. Many people would often go to the Dongshengshan Gate to challenge them. Today an army of 1,000 people went to the Dongshengshan Gate, but they never returned. Not a single one of them managed to escape alive. In the army camp, the army supervisor gathered all the commanders for a discussion. In the main hall, Qin Wentian and the other commanders of the immortal Qianbian Gate gathered. They were all clad in armor and looked heroic. Qin Wentian's armor shone brightly, but he still wore a mask on his face. He had always been like this in the army, mysterious and unfathomable. Many people didn't even know what this Tianwen army commander looked like. They only knew that his cultivation wasn't high, but his combat prowess was extremely high. His army was invincible. In the battle at the front line just now, all 1,000 soldiers died. The Dongshengshan Gate has formed an ace army. They should be under the direct command of the Dongshengshan Gate. They are here to assist in the battle and eliminate us. I'm afraid that it won't be long before the Dongshengshan Gate launches another round of attack. What do you all think? The army supervisor looked at everyone and asked, Ace Army? Are their combat prowess very strong? Someone asked. Very strong. They are all at the 7th level of Immortal Foundation or above. Also, the ones controlling the battle formations have extremely powerful combat prowess. If the Dongshengshan Gate managed to form such an army, we would definitely be in danger. The army supervisor replied. When soldiers come, we'll deal with them. Before this, we forced them back twice and obtained a complete victory once. Now that we've reorganized the Tianwen army, our combat prowess shouldn't be inferior to the Dongshengshan Gate, right? Someone turned his gaze to Qin Wentian. However, there was a hint of dissatisfaction in his voice. Qin Wentian was only at the 2nd level of Immortal Foundation, yet his prestige in the army had already reached the peak. Who didn't know that the Tianwen army was the ace army of the Dongshengshan Gate? The credit for the 2 battles they fought earlier was all because of Qin Wentian, causing some people to be extremely unhappy. Tianwen, what do you think? The army supervisor stared at Qin Wentian as he asked. Fight. Qin Wentian spoke, his words causing the eyes of the army supervisor to flash. He stared at Qin Wentian. Tianwen, speak clearly. Although the Dongshengshan Gate has already recovered its strength, the army of our immortal Qianbian Gate isn't inferior in any way. I hope that commander can take the initiative to fight and completely crush the army of the Dongshengshan Gate stationed in Hancheng. If we can obtain such a victory, I believe we would be able to gather even more Immortal Foundation experts to join the war. Qin Wentian slowly spoke. If not, everyone in the 13 prefectures, including the 6 prefectures in the west, would think that we would definitely lose. Although we won a great victory earlier, it wasn't sufficient to raise the morale of our army. If we can occupy Hancheng, the prestige of our immortal Qianbian Gate would surely rise to another level. Everyone stared at Qin Wentian in shock. Was this fellow crazy? He wanted to destroy the army of the Dongshengshan Gate and occupy Hancheng in one fell swoop? During these years, the Dongshengshan Gate had always been the one with the initiative, while the immortal Qianbian Gate had always been in a passive state of defense. They could only hope that they wouldn't be defeated under the ferocious attacks of the Dongshengshan Gate. But now, Qin Wentian actually wanted to take over Hancheng? Do you really think so? The eyes of the supervising officer flickered as he stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian nodded. The immortal Qianbian Gate needs a great victory. You're right. But even if we win and occupy Hancheng, the Dongshengshan Gate would surely lead their army to launch a comeback, shocking the world. At that time, we would face even greater pressure. In fact, the Dongshengshan Gate might even launch a great expedition against our 6 prefectures. The army supervisor spoke to Qin Wentian. The Dongshengshan Gate's expedition will happen sooner or later. Senior, do you think we can avoid it? Why don't we use a great victory to announce the might of our immortal Qianbian Gate? If the Dongshengshan Gate really sends more troops over, we can just retreat. Let's see if they dare to enter the 6 prefectures. Even the number of troops of the Dongshengshan Gate is limited. They are afraid of exhausting their strength. Qin Wentian casually spoke. Fine, I will convey your words to General Niu. If General Niu agrees, we will have to make proper arrangements. The army supervisor smiled. After that, he stood up and walked out, leaving behind Qin Wentian and the other commanders. Those commanders turned their gazes to Qin Wentian. One of their eyes gleamed with sharpness as he spoke. Don't you know that given our combat strength, it's impossible for us to destroy the Dong Shengshan Gate's army? Even if you fight to the death, I'm afraid the casualties of the Dong Shengshan Gate wouldn't be too far off from us. What do you think we should do? Qin Wentian asked. Wait for an opportunity, the other party replied. Opportunity? There will never be an opportunity. Qin Wentian stood up and walked out as he slowly spoke. The Immortal Qianbian Gate's foundation is too weak against the Dong Shengshan Gate. If this continues, the Immortal Qianbian Gate won't stand a chance. We need victory, a great victory, allowing the 6 prefectures to rise again. We need to let the people of the 6 prefectures see that our Immortal Qianbian Gate can defeat the Dong Shengshan Gate. Chapter 1096. The Jin Prefecture's Han City and the Lei Prefecture's Yuan City welcomed a period of peace. The armies of both sides did not attack again, nor did they call for war. However, this kind of peace made people faintly feel that a terrifying storm was brewing. In the Great Hall of the Jing Prefecture's Han City, the Dream Demon King was actually there. Other than him, there were several other immortal kings as well. Below them, there was a group of young men clad in resplendent golden armor, exuding a terrifying aura. The cultivation bases of these people were all at the peak level of Immortal Foundation. This time around, do you have the confidence to win for sure? The Dream Demon King's voice was lazy. Although a few years to him was a very short period of time, he had yet to conquer Yuan City, and even suffered a great defeat. This made the Dream Demon King feel very uncomfortable. Over at the Dong Shengshan Gate, there were many immortal kings watching this battle. He felt that he had lost a lot of face. General Dream Demon, don't worry. This time around, there will be no mistakes. Even if our enemies can break through our formation, our individual combat prowess far surpasses them. At that time, we will completely destroy our formation and engage in a chaotic battle, making those who join the Immortal Qianbian Gate pay a price. A young man below coldly spoke. I naturally believe in your ability, but this time around, we cannot afford to lose again. Right now, our army is recruiting outsiders, and the number of people who are willing to join us is decreasing. The Dream Demon King spoke in a low voice. This time around, we will definitely destroy the Immortal Qianbian Gate. That young man spoke. At this moment, the Dream Demon King frowned, after which a voice drifted over. Shameless boasting. This voice was like thunder, shaking the heavens and earth, extremely coarse. Humph. The Dream Demon King coldly snorted. Dream Demon King, come out and fight. A voice rang out in the air, causing the entire Dong Shengshan Gate to tremble. This was the voice of General Niu. Was there going to be a war between immortal kings? In the Dong Shengshan Gate, countless people inclined their heads only to see numerous immortal kings standing in the air, resembling divinities, unexcelled in the world. This time around, seems like the Immortal Qianbian Gate was going to start a war between immortal kings. The sound of the bugle horn rang out, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. The army of the 1,000 Transformations Immortal Sect had also arrived. This was the signal for the entire army to go to war. This would truly be a war of the entire army, including immortal kings. The Immortal Qianbian Gate actually launched an all-out attack against them. The Immortal Qianbian Gate actually launched an all-out attack. The voice of the Dream Demon King rang out in the army. The experts of the Eastern Sage Immortal Sect all soared into the air, forming an orderly formation as they flew towards the battlefield. As for the Dream Demon King and the other immortal kings, they directly soared up into the air. For a battle between immortal kings, it was clear that they couldn't fight together with an army. The Dream Demon King's voice rang out in the army. The experts of the Dong Shengshan Gate all soared into the air, forming an orderly formation as they flew towards the center of the battlefield. As for the Dream Demon King and the other immortal kings, they directly soared into the air. A war between immortal kings naturally couldn't be fought together with an army. Who wants to fight? In the army of the Dong Shengshan Gate, there was an expert riding on a greater demon flood dragon, arriving at the center of the two armies. This man was clad in violet gold armor, and had a dragon spear in his hand. Who wants to fight? That expert pointed his spear at the army of the immortal Qianbian Gate as he roared. This man was at the 7th level of Immortal Foundation, and exuded a majestic aura. His strength was extremely terrifying. You go. Qin Wentian glanced at a young man from the Battle Saint tribe, who was clad in armor not far away from him. This young man was at the 7th level of Immortal Foundation, and was qualified to fight. He stepped out, moving towards the center of the battlefield. Immortal light revolved around him as his aura surged. Immortal energy converged as a long spear appeared in his hands. Roar! The flood dragon the young man was riding on howled, exuding a baleful aura. That gigantic body exuded a towering might as it rushed forward. His opponent actually wanted to use his mount to kill his opponent. The attacks of the greater demon flood dragon were terrifying. It was truly an extremely powerful greater demon. The blood and chi of the greater demon flood dragon flourished, exuding a fearsome might. It let out a heaven-shaking roar as it rushed towards the young man from the Battle Saint tribe. Its body was gigantic, and the horns on its head were extremely malevolent. When it neared the young man, everyone had a feeling that this greater demon flood dragon would be able to devour the young man with a single attack. At this moment, the young man roared. His entire body was filled with battle might. He lifted his arm and pierced out with his spear, aiming for the sharp claws of the greater demon flood dragon. The claws of the greater demon abruptly smashed out, colliding with the long spear. Immortal light trembled as the young man stepped out, directly entering the mouth of the greater demon flood dragon. Just as he was about to be bitten into two by the flood dragon, his body was about to be bitten into pieces. A supreme might gushed forth from the young man. He stomped on the lower jaw of the greater demon flood dragon, and used both of his hands to prop up the mouth of the greater demon flood dragon. He let out a thunderous roar as boundless strength gushed forth from him, resembling a human-shaped desolate beast. Poochie! A terrifying roar of misery rang out. The mouth of the greater demon flood dragon was forcefully torn apart. The young man punched right into the body of the greater demon flood dragon, as a blinding light erupted forth. Destructive energy erupted forth as the screams of the greater demon flood dragon reverberated through the air, as its gigantic body fell from the sky. What a powerful strength! It seems like a greater demon in human form. The hearts of everyone shuddered. The experts from the immortal Qianbian Gate all let out thunderous cheers. This tyrannical attack was simply too great a boost to their morale. At this moment, the dragon spear of the expert from the Dongshengshan Gate shot over. As this spear slashed out, numerous dragon shadows manifested, wanting to devour everything. The young man from the Battle Saint tribe calmly watched everything. He lifted his arm and blasted out explosively, manifesting a golden screen of light that contained a heaven-shaking battle might. The dragon shadows exploded unceasingly. The young man from the Battle Saint tribe stepped out and actually grabbed the dragon spear of his opponent barehandedly. His palms were like indomitable immortal weapons. With a loud roar, he abruptly pulling his opponent over as well. That expert from the Dongshengshan Gate has never seen such a combat method before. His countenance kept changing. Roar! His left hand blasted out, transforming into a dragon spear that manifested a dragon shadow, exuding a heaven-shaking might. It was like he was returning the attack of his opponent back to his opponent, yet the might of his attack wasn't inferior at all. That expert's countenance drastically changed. He gave up on the dragon spear and retreated, but he was still struck by the ferocious attacks, causing him to cough out blood. Boom! The young man from the Battle Saint tribe stepped out, transforming into a beam of light and instantly appeared before his opponent. He punched out with both his fists and with a thunderous boom. The immortal foundation of his opponent shattered as his life force was extinguished. The space around him trembled as he fell from the sky. The army of the immortal Qianbian Gate roared, cheering for the return of their opponent. What powerful combat prowess! This was truly a humanoid beast. His attacks were simply too tyrannical. Get into formation! The immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate shouted. The army started to move into formation. The people from the immortal Qianbian Gate discovered that the frontmost formation of their opponent was actually controlled by the young man clad in violet gold armor. This was none other than the trump card of the Battle Saint tribe that destroyed their 1,000-man army back then. 9 Dragons Battle Formation. The battle formation of this army was extremely malevolent. An incomparably gigantic demonic dragon appeared. It had 9 dragon bodies and 9 heads. Get into formation. Qin Wentian spoke. After that, the army he commanded started to get into formation. Not long after, an incomparably gigantic divine ape appeared. This divine ape radiated a baleful aura, resembling a war god of the demon world. This battle formation wasn't the one the immortal Qianbian Gate used. It was a battle formation belonging to the Battle Saint tribe instead. The totem beast of the Battle Saint tribe was none other than the divine ape. This divine ape was clad in resplendent battle armor. Just by standing there, it gave off a feeling of invincibility, causing people to sigh in amazement. In fact, this was the first time the people from the immortal Qianbian Gate saw the divine ape battle formation. They only knew that during these few days, the Heaven Inquisition army had been undergoing special training for battle formations. Seems like it was precisely for this battle formation. Do you dare to fight? The divine ape roared, its voice shaking the heavens and earth. This voice was directed at the 9 dragons battle formation. What's there to fear? Fight! The 9 dragons roared in rage as they rushed out. The divine ape similarly stomped on the ground, causing rumbling sounds to shake the heavens. Cracks unceasingly appeared on the ground, and the entire army could feel the ground trembling. Boundless divine light circulated around the body of the divine ape, containing a supreme battle might. Like an innate battle demon, the 2 terrifying greater demons moved towards the center of the battlefield, causing the hearts of both armies to tremble. This was a battle between 2 trump card armies. It would surely affect the entire situation. If the Heaven Inquisition army was defeated, the immortal Qianbian Gate would surely be in danger. Roar! A heaven-shaking roar rang out. The 9 malevolent-looking dragon heads lunged towards the divine ape, giving off a feeling of doomsday. Roar! The roar of the divine ape was even more terrifying. It stood tall in the sky as the divine glow around it grew even more resplendent. It blasted out with its arms, directly aiming for the 2 dragon heads. After a thunderous boom, the tyrannical force caused the dragon heads to explode. However, when the other 7 dragon heads bit onto the body of the divine ape, it felt like they were biting onto the toughest metal. That terrifying light screen contained a fearsome might. Bang! Even so, the body of the divine ape trembled. The lines on its body were all damaged. Many people in the battle matrix were also trembling. However, the arms of the divine ape blasted out again. With a thunderous boom, another 2 dragon heads exploded. The huge body of the 9 dragons was sent flying. Not good. The expressions of the people in the 9 dragon battle matrix changed drastically. How could this divine ape battle matrix be so terrifying? The light circulating around it was simply astonishing. The roars of the immortal Qianbian Gate army shook the sky, completely suppressing the morale of the army of the Dongshengshan Gate. The divine ape battle matrix was too domineering. It could crush and destroy the trump card battle matrix of the opponent. This battle matrix was simply invincible. In the battle matrix of the 9 dragons, a young man had an ugly look on his face. He saw the divine ape trampling over the ground, and he took out a magic treasure. The magic treasure emitted an extremely terrifying light. In an instant, it rose up into the sky and spread far away, covering the entire sky and earth. A terrifying pressure enveloped the entire battlefield. Qin Wentian discovered that the divine ape battle matrix he was controlling was gradually disintegrating. Under the might of that powerful screen of light, all other battle matrices could no longer exist. What do you all mean by this? The immortal king of the immortal Qianbian Gate coldly spoke. Use your true strength to fight. This not only destroyed your battle matrix, it also destroyed the battle matrix of my Dongshengshan Gate. This is still a fair battle. The immortal king of the Dongshengshan Gate replied. If your battle matrix had the advantage, would you say this? Could it be that battle matrices are not considered as strength? The immortal king of the immortal Qianbian Gate coldly spoke. He stepped out. The other party coldly snorted, not showing any signs of weakness. Two immortal kings actually wanted to fight first? The entire battlefield was already out of control. Chapter 1097. Two immortal kings fought in the air, shooting up into the sky. For this battlefield, there was no one to command them. Other than immortal kings, the others had no way to control an immortal foundation army. At this moment, this chaotic army could only fight on their own. The Dongshengshan Gate's army was long prepared, and had a trump card. If it wasn't for the Divine Ape formation formed by Qin Wentian and the others, their Nine-Dragon battle formation would have become an invincible weapon that could pierce right into the heart of the immortal Qianbian Gate, influencing the entire battlefield. Right now, because the Nine-Dragon battle formation was defeated, they took out a powerful treasure they brought with them, causing the entire battlefield to have no way to form a formation. If a formation couldn't be formed, the entire army would engage in a chaotic battle. And in terms of individual combat prowess, the Dongshengshan Gate's army was made up of well-trained soldiers, and was clearly stronger. Even before the battle started, they were already in an undefeatable position. Roars rang out unceasingly as the sounds of killing shook the sky. Both armies rushed towards each other. Even if they couldn't form a formation, they could only kill. Qin Wentian floated in the air, surrounded by 36 experts from the Battle Saint tribe, protecting him. The battlefield could change in an instant. They naturally had to follow closely behind Qin Wentian. They mustn't allow Qin Wentian to be in danger. The two armies clashed. Immortal arts were unleashed unceasingly as all sorts of innate techniques and techniques clashed against each other. The sky was in chaos. The destructive currents transformed into a terrifying tempest that ravaged this entire space. The commanders of the Nine-Dragon battle formation were all clad in violet gold armor. They floated in the air and slashed out with their dragon spears. Everywhere they passed by, they were invincible, killing whoever they met. Qin Wentian wasn't in a hurry to fight. He was observing the battlefield. Right now, under the situation where they couldn't even form a formation, they could only fight alone. The strength of a single person wouldn't be able to affect the entire battle. He wanted to see the disparity between the individual combat prowess of the immortal Qianbian Gate and the Dongshengshan Gate. After the full-scale collision, Qin Wentian found that the immortal Qianbian Gate's disadvantage was revealed. They were slightly weaker than the Dongshengshan Gate's army. He had to think of a way to save this battle. Inclining his eyes, Qin Wentian stared ahead. The army of 1,000 transformations immortal sect was invincible. They were still slaughtering their way over. These were all experts with a high cultivation base, the elites of the 1,000 transformations immortal sect. Buzz! Qin Wentian waved his hand, and light flashed. He clapped his hands and puppet armors opened one by one. Qin Wentian said, "Go in." In the surroundings, the 36 experts from the Battle Saint tribe, as well as Jun Mengchen, Purgatory and the others, all stepped into the puppet armors. Qin Wentian himself also stepped into one. There were over 10 people in the surroundings. All of them were clad in puppet armors. Although they were insignificant compared to the entire battlefield, they still caused the spectators to feel a sense of imposingness. If it wasn't for the fact that he had no other choice, Qin Wentian wouldn't use these puppets. This indicated that he might have to expose his identity. Once his identity was exposed, he would have no way to continue staying at the front lines, or he might be assassinated by the immortal kings of the Dongshengshan Gate. In order to kill him, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor would definitely break the rules. Kill them all together. Qin Wentian spoke as he directly walked towards the elite from the Eastern Sage immortal sect clad in violet gold armor. MHM. These experts were invincible, leading an army of thousands. Their morale was extremely high as they slaughtered their way into the heart of the immortal Qianbian Gate. At this moment, when they saw Qin Wentian and the others walking over, their eyes flashed. And when the elites of the immortal Qianbian Gate saw Qin Wentian and the others walking over, they couldn't help but feel as though they had found their backbone. They followed behind Qin Wentian and prepared to face the enemies. Kill! Qin Wentian spoke. The 36 experts in the surroundings all radiated a dazzling light at the same time. Battle immortal light circulated around their armors as they blasted out with their palms. Thunderous roars thundered through the air as numerous divine apes soared through the air. Everywhere they passed by, the experts of the Eastern Sage Immortal sect were directly killed. With just a single strike, over 100 experts from the Eastern Sage Immortal sect who were blocking their path were all killed. Elite disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate? Qin Wentian and the others walked towards the experts in violet gold armor as they coldly spoke. All of you shall die here. After speaking, the group of them stepped out and launched another attack. Numerous divine apes soared through the air, their howls shaking the heavens, their strength capable of destroying the void. Those who wanted to kill them all died instantly. Only those from the Eastern Sage Immortal sect would be qualified to clash head-on with them. Kill. Those experts from the Eastern Sage Immortal sect who were clad in violet gold armor all stabbed out with their spears at the same time. In an instant, a storm of destruction gushed over, wanting to destroy everything. Qin Wentian roared. His puppet-armored body expanded to 10,000 meters, resembling a god of war. Not only for him, the experts from the Battle Saint tribe beside him all unleashed a violent might as their bodies grew towering, resembling ancient divinities. The Battle Saint art was all-encompassing, able to transform into countless life and death techniques. Even if one didn't break through to the Immortal King realm, they would be able to expand their bodies and unleash battle prowess. Also, the puppet-armored bodies on their bodies were specially made. They were extremely flexible, and weren't restricted by the size of their bodies. Over 30 terrifying figures stood in the air, peering down at them with disdain. For a moment, everyone on the battlefield turned their gazes over here as shock filled their hearts. Qin Wentian wanted this effect. He had to make their battle the focal point of the entire battlefield, causing the experts of the Dongshengshan Gate to panic, causing the experts of the Immortal Qianbian Gate to have the confidence that they would win for sure. The powerful attacks blasted into the bodies of the puppets, but they only caused their bodies to tremble. There was basically no way for them to be injured. Qin Wentian's puppet-armored palms suddenly glowed with boundless resplendent light. As he stretched his hands out, an indomitable divinity's palm blasted out towards the leader of the enemy's battle formation, covering the heavens and earth, wanting to destroy everything. The experts of the Battle Saint tribe all had looks of terror on their faces as they took out their immortal weapons to defend. However, as the palm imprint blasted down, no one was able to block it. The experts of the Battle Saint tribe beside Qin Wentian all unleashed their killing techniques at the same time. In an instant, this place became a battlefield of destruction. Many of those experts of the Dongshengshan Gate who were clad in violet gold armor instantly died, looking extremely miserable. How can scheming and crafty plots change the situation? This victory ultimately belongs to the strong. The Immortal Qianbian Gate is invincible. Qin Wentian roared and blasted out another palm imprint, killing his opponents. This group of people were like killing gods on the battlefield. Everywhere they passed by, nothing could survive. For those from the Eastern Sage Immortal sect, no matter if they were elites or ordinary characters, only death awaited them. Invincible. An expert from the Immortal Qianbian Gate roared. Invincible. Gradually, the entire battlefield seemed to be infected. The army of the Battle Saint tribe followed Qin Wentian's footsteps, completely suppressing the auras of the Battle Saint tribe. He is Qin Wentian. Kill him. It would be a great merit if we kill him. At this moment, an ear-piercing roar rang out from within the army. Qin Wentian had donned the puppet armor and used the god's hand. Clearly, he would be recognized. For this point, Qin Wentian was already prepared in his heart. Qin Wentian. Many experts of the Dongshengshan Gate weren't unfamiliar with this name. Many years ago, during the 100-year immortal banquet held by the Dongshengshan Gate, it was precisely because of Qin Wentian that the Emperor Qianbian appeared. That battle was a symbolic battle that caused the 13 prefectures to split. Hence, there were still many people who knew of Qin Wentian. Even the core disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate knew of him. Tianwen is Qin Wentian. There were many inner disciples of the Immortal Qianbian Gate who had heard of Qin Wentian before. Although Qin Wentian wasn't a famous immortal king or emperor, he had still done many things that could shake the entire immortal realms. Hence, there were many who knew of his name. If he could become an immortal king one day, the number of people who knew of him would surely increase. Even those who weren't from the immortal Qianbian Gate would know of his name. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over and found the person who spoke. It was none other than the person who captured Qin Yao and Luo Huan back then. His silhouette flickered as his gigantic frame soared through the air, appearing before that person. Seeing that person fleeing madly, Qin Wentian roared in rage and blasted out with his palm, covering a vast area. That person only felt the sky above his head turning dark as his body trembled unceasingly. After which, Qin Wentian's palm blasted out, directly smashing that person into pieces. This grudge, Qin Wentian had long wanted to take revenge and had been waiting for an opportunity. But now that person actually sent himself to his doorstep, courting death. Kill. Qin Wentian inclined his head and roared in rage, his voice shaking the heavens and earth. He took the lead and continued to kill his way forward. With a single step, he could trample a person to death. With a single palm strike, he could annihilate everyone. The experts of the Battle Saint tribe followed after him, opening up a path of slaughter. At this moment, there was no one to supervise the battle. Many people in the army of the Dongshengshan Gate directly turned to flee. After all, many of them were recruited by the Dongshengshan Gate and weren't from the Dongshengshan Gate's faction. At this moment, they didn't want to continue fighting. The battlefield was simply too dangerous. In the battlefield, there was a situation of people fleeing. The army instantly started to crumble. This sort of panic wasn't because of their strength, but rather, it was because of the hearts of the people. Although Qin Wentian and the others were powerful, they only relied on their aura to shock the entire battlefield. However, their numbers were too few. If the immortal kings of the Dongshengshan Gate were here, they might still have a chance to stabilize the situation. However, the situation on the battlefield was ever-changing. Most probably, the immortal kings who fled wouldn't have expected that the situation would be settled so quickly. The people of the immortal Qianbian Gate didn't retreat this time around. In such a one-sided situation, how could they not chase after their enemies to the end? In any case, the goal of this battle was to annihilate the army of the Dongshengshan Gate. The Dongshengshan Gate was being hunted down. The disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate started to flee even faster. They didn't want to be embroiled in the battlefield in case the immortal kings wanted to settle scores with them later on. However, Qin Wentian, who had been chasing for a long time, suddenly halted his steps. He and the experts of the Battle Saint tribe returned to their normal size. He stared at the fleeing army as he spoke. "Let's retreat." After speaking, he turned and fled without hesitation. He had won a great victory, but it was destined that he would have to leave this battlefield soon. Chapter 1098. The army of the immortal Qianbian Gate invaded Han City. The army of the Dongshengshan Gate either died or fled. The entire sky above Han City was filled with the army of the immortal Qianbian Gate. All of them let out thunderous roars, celebrating this unprecedented victory. They actually managed to take down Han City, defeating the enemy and occupying a city. They had never imagined that they would be able to defend Yuan City. It was already not bad. In the air, a terrifying pressure bore down, after which numerous beams of light shot over. These were none other than the immortal kings who fought earlier. At this moment, the auras of the immortal kings fluctuated wildly. Even for the Dream Demon King and General Ox, the two commanders, they all felt a little unnatural. General Ox's robes had completely disappeared, revealing his bronze-colored skin and muscles. Beautifully done. General Ox praised as he stared at the battle below. He only wanted to give it a try. He didn't expect that Qin Wentian would actually succeed. The Dream Demon King turned ashen. His army of immortal kings couldn't even defeat his opponents, and the army of immortal foundation experts were all defeated. Yuan City was utterly defeated. How would he answer to the Dongxing Heaven Emperor? Dream Demon King, Han City is now mine. You guys can scram back to the Dongshengshan Gate now. General Ox spoke. The Dream Demon King wanted nothing more than to kill all the immortal foundation experts below. However, he didn't dare to casually break the rules of the immortal war. Unless the Dongxing Heaven Emperor gave the order, he wouldn't act on his own. If not, if both sides broke the rules, that would be the doomsday of the juniors. Let's go. The Dream Demon King gave the order to retreat. His silhouette flashed as he left this place. Their departure meant that Han City already belonged to the immortal Qianbian Gate. In fact, they could even continue to penetrate deeper and conquer the entire Jing Prefecture. However, the Jing Prefecture was simply too vast. Now that both sides were in the midst of an immortal war, it was impossible for him to split his troops to govern it. That was a golden age. Only the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures could govern it like this. Now that he invaded the Jing Prefecture, there was no way he could devour it. Unless one day, the Dongshengshan Gate no longer existed. The main purpose of an immortal war wasn't to fight for territory. Rather, it was to destroy one's opponents and strengthen oneself. This great victory has come at the right time. General Ox looked down and said, "Return to Yuan City and reward them according to their contributions." "Yes, General." Everyone bowed and it was a celebratory scene. General Niu didn't choose to occupy Han City, and instead ordered the army to return to Yuan City. The army returned in triumph. Those elite soldiers were at the very front and were the center of attention. However, everyone knew who the true deciding factor of this battle was. Yi Qing looked at the mighty army, but there was no sign of Qin Wentian. She murmured, "Qin Wentian." His name wasn't Tianwen but Qin Wentian instead. It was rumored that he was the personal disciple of the Emperor Qianbian. After this great victory, Yuan City didn't let down their guard. They continued to recruit troops, and the news of this great victory spread to all the major cities of the Thunder Prefecture. More and more Immortal Foundation experts rushed to Yuan City to join the war. However, the Dongshengshan Gate also started to organize an army to kill their way back. Both sides used the Yuan River as a boundary, and the Immortal War continued for a long time. Naturally, all of this happened after that. In the Immortal Qianbian Gate, Qin Wentian brought a group of people back, and this caused quite a commotion. After all, Qin Wentian only brought a few people with him back to the battlefield. Now the number of people he brought with him had increased, causing many to feel puzzled. After returning to the Immortal Qianbian Gate, Qin Wentian met with the white-robed Immortal King, Bai Wuya. Right now, Bai Wuya was in charge of the war between the Immortal Qianbian Gate and the Dongshengshan Gate. His authority in the Immortal Qianbian Gate could be said to be towering. Many people in the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures were discussing that the lone wolf, Bai Wuya, would actually join the Immortal Qianbian Gate. This matter even caused quite a commotion among the immortal kings of the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures. Many people didn't understand why Bai Wuya wanted to get involved in this muddy water. After all, immortal kings were all old freaks that had lived for countless years, who didn't know that it would be best if he didn't want to help either side. There was always a risk in joining either side. They guessed that Bai Wuya might have a great desire for power, and wanted to rule over an entire region. Now that he was helping the Emperor of Qianbian, in the future when he breaks through to the Immortal Emperor realm, there was a high possibility that he would succeed the Emperor of Qianbian and become the ruler of this vast region. Naturally, there were also people who guessed that the white-robed Immortal King wanted to use this immortal war to temper himself. He chose the weaker Emperor of Qianbian because he wanted to prove his capabilities, allowing himself to grow stronger in the immortal war. Before Qin Wentian even arrived, a white-robed figure already walked over. The white-robed figure walked towards him and spoke. "You only went to the battlefield for 2 years and you are already back. My identity was exposed. If I continued to stay here, I'm afraid the people of the Dongshengshan Gate would break the rules and act against me." Qin Wentian replied. Bai Wuya nodded. He glanced at the people behind Qin Wentian. Although these people were all Immortal Foundation experts, the auras they exuded were all extraordinary. Qin Wentian and Bai Wuya were both disciples of the Immortal Qianbian Gate. He didn't go to the Emperor of Qianbian but came to Bai Wuya instead. There was a reason for him to do so. He wanted to hide the identities of these people from the Battle Saint tribe, and the Emperor of Qianbian should know that he and Bai Wuya belonged to the same power. After all, there were many people from the Heavenly Talisman realm joining the Immortal Champion Gate. Hence, if these people came from the Heavenly Talisman realm, the Emperor Lord wouldn't even care about it. Senior brother, they are all disciples of Emperor Yi and are now following me. This concerns the secret of Emperor Yi. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to Bai Wuya. How could Bai Wuya not understand Qin Wentian's meaning? He replied, I will help you keep this secret. There's no need for you to worry about the Emperor Lord. It's fine as long as everyone misunderstands. As for the people outside, they would also misunderstand. A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. In the immortal realms, his relationship with Bai Wuya could be considered very close. In fact, it was even closer compared to his relationship with the Emperor of Qianbian. He met Bai Wuya in a particle world, and after he came to the immortal realms, Bai Wuya led him to the Heavenly Talisman realm, and they became fellow disciples of the same sect. Bai Wuya was his introducer and their relationship was extraordinary. Qin Wentian also trusted Bai Wuya very much. He also understood Bai Wuya's meaning. As long as Bai Wuya helped him keep this secret, the Emperor Lord's subordinates would misunderstand that they came from the Heavenly Talisman realm to follow Qin Wentian. As for the people outside, they would only think that they were from the Immortal Qianbian Gate. Recently, there were many geniuses with extraordinary talent in the Immortal Qianbian Gate. There was nothing special about having another 30 or so geniuses who cultivated the same type of energy. Only Bai Wuya understood that it was fine as long as others misunderstood. What are your plans for the future? Bai Wuya asked. I originally didn't plan for you to enter the battlefield so soon. This battle will be very long. When you break through to the Immortal King realm, you might be able to become an important force on the battlefield. In that case, I will cultivate for a period of time first. Qin Wentian spoke. Okay, go ahead. Bai Wuya nodded. Qin Wentian and the others bid their farewells and returned to their lodgings. On the way there, they met Lin Xian'er. She was still as charming as ever, exuding a gentle aura. Her smile was innately charming, truly a stunner. Sir Qin, you have returned. Lin Xian'er smiled when she saw Qin Wentian. Xian'er didn't go out? Qin Wentian smiled. I often roam the world outside, but I discovered that my strength is truly too weak. Lin Xian'er nodded. Let's not talk about this anymore. Xian'er still has to work hard in her cultivation. That's only natural. Qin Wentian smiled and nodded. Oh yes. Does Sir Qin lack any maids to serve you? Xian'er can go. Lin Xian'er's charming eyes were like silk as she spoke in a gentle voice. Her gaze was so beautiful that it could cause one's soul to flutter. Qin Wentian hurriedly shook his head. Xian'er, don't mess around. How would I dare to treat you as a maid? But Xian'er is willing. Lin Xian'er's voice seeped into one's bones. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled. Xian'er, you can roam the world by yourself. I will return first. After speaking, he directly brought his men and left. Lin Xian'er stared at the back view of Qin Wentian as a smile appeared on her face. She still couldn't forget the scene in the particle world where Qin Wentian used himself to exchange for her. Back then, how good would it be if she could meet him earlier? Qin Wentian settled the members of the Battle Saint tribe down. The talent of these people was extraordinary. They were all people born for battle, and would be of great help to him in the future. In terms of talent, all of them were qualified to join the Heavenly Talisman realm. It was just that Qin Wentian didn't plan to allow the members of the Battle Saint tribe to join the Heavenly Talisman realm. The strength of the Heavenly Talisman realm was too vast and mysterious. The Battle Saint tribe was a power that belonged solely to him. After the arrangements were made, Qin Wentian returned home. However, he didn't see Qingcheng. When he walked to the cultivation ground, he saw Qingcheng with her eyes closed in cultivation. She had no distractions in her heart. Even when she was cultivating, she was still as beautiful as ever, exuding a serene aura. After Qin Wentian baptized Mo Qingcheng with the sacred luminance, she was extremely hardworking in her cultivation, and her rate of improvement was extremely fast. After all, she was still at the celestial phenomenon realm. It was very easy for her to improve. She wasn't like Immortal Foundation, where it would take several years to break through. To many Immortal Foundation experts, it would take hundreds or thousands of years for them to break through. Qin Wentian had a perfect Saint-grade Immortal Foundation, and his Immortal Foundation was incomparably stable. He only used a few years to break through to the second level of Immortal Foundation. They quietly sat down at the side of the cultivation ground. Qin Wentian didn't disturb Mo Qingqing's cultivation. Only after several days did Mo Qingqing's aura fluctuate. She opened her eyes and saw Qin Wentian with a single glance. A sweet smile appeared on her face as she asked, "Why didn't you call me? You are too beautiful. I couldn't bear to disturb you." Qin Wentian stood up and smiled. "What a glib tongue. Did you flirt with other girls outside?" A mischievous look appeared on Mo Qingqing's face as she walked towards Qin Wentian. "I just returned from the battlefield. How can I flirt with other girls?" Qin Wentian had a bitter look on his face. "Do you think I don't know your capabilities?" Mo Qingqing smiled. "What do you know?" Qin Wentian grabbed her arm and hugged her tightly, causing Mo Qingqing to let out a cry of surprise. However, a blissful smile could be seen on her face. "Let me show you my capabilities." Qin Wentian carried Mo Qingqing up and walked towards the room. The two of them laughed and played, appearing extremely lovey-dovey. However, Qin Wentian didn't know that at this moment, in the boundlessly vast eastern regions of the Immortal Realms, in the neighboring region of the Evergreen Kingdom, there was a gigantic power, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. Right now, a group of powerful envoys was heading towards the Evergreen Kingdom. Chapter 1099. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom was a neighboring land of the Evergreen Kingdom. It had countless cities and a vast territory. It was an extremely ancient celestial kingdom with a terrifying foundation. When the Evergreen Kingdom was in turmoil, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom intervened and affected the fate of the Evergreen Kingdom. That civil war consumed the power of the Evergreen Kingdom, and countless experts fell. In the end, the Chongqing the Great won, but it was also a Pyrrhic victory. For the Evergreen Kingdom, that civil war was definitely a period of history that was unbearable to recall. After that civil war in the Evergreen Kingdom, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom withdrew its hand and no longer interfered with the internal affairs of the Evergreen Kingdom. But now, in the imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom, a diplomatic mission from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom arrived. This diplomatic mission did not directly enter the imperial palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. When they stepped into the imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom, the entire imperial city was shaken. In the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, there was a great uproar. Even the Chongqing the Great was alarmed. There were often nobility figures who met the great emperor to discuss this matter. Everyone understood that the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom did not come with good intentions. They were both celestial kingdoms, and as neighboring countries, the two celestial kingdoms had countless conflicts in the long river of history. Now, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom was gradually gaining the upper hand in the civil war of the Evergreen Kingdom. How could the people of the Evergreen Kingdom not understand the ambition of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom? They could not wait to nibble away at the Evergreen Kingdom bit by bit and turn it into the territory of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. This time, they must have come with ulterior motives. Moreover, the imperial palace of the Evergreen Kingdom had already heard that there were several important figures in the delegation from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom that came to the Evergreen Kingdom this time, including a few princes of the Celestial Nation. On this day, the diplomatic corps of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom presented a letter of credence to the imperial palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. They sent it to the imperial palace of the Evergreen Kingdom and directly sent it to the hands of the Chongqing the Great. In the Great Hall of the Imperial Palace of the Evergreen Kingdom, the Chongqing the Great sat on the true dragon throne in the Great Hall, looking at the letter of credence sent by the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. Although his expression was still calm, a destructive force appeared in his hands. In an instant, the letter of credence from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom was destroyed. The Sky Mist diplomatic group has come to visit. We hope that the Chongqing the Great will fulfill the promise made by the celestial country in the past. An ethereal voice suddenly rang out. It was as if a wisp of green smoke had flowed out from the destroyed letter. This ethereal voice rang out across the entire hall. Impudent. Many nobility in the great hall stood up with ashen expressions. One of the nobility spoke. That year, the scoundrel made a promise with the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, borrowing the strength of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom to interfere in the affairs of our celestial country. It's one thing that we didn't settle this debt with the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, but they actually dared to mention the celestial country again? That's right, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. How arrogant. Another nobility spoke in a cold tone, causing many nobility to have expressions of rage on their faces. The Chongqing the Great waved his hands and spoke. There's no need to say anything more. Since they're here, just receive them well. As for the promise, I really want to see what they're going to say. Yes. Everyone nodded. This matter would most probably cause quite a storm. The imperial palace wouldn't be able to calm down in a short period of time. In the immortal Qianbian Gate, Qin Wentian was cultivating in peace. Although it was extremely difficult to raise his immortal foundation realm, Qin Wentian's heart was incomparably resolute. He did his best, wanting to raise his cultivation base in the shortest amount of time possible. In the vast immortal realms, immortal foundation experts might be able to live a carefree life. But if one wanted to become an expert and stand shoulder to shoulder with those experts in the immortal realms, they had to step into the immortal king realm. Only immortal kings would have the authority to speak in the immortal realms. They could become hegemons of an area and establish a tyrannical power. They could even control many cities and become the king of a prefecture. Today, Qin Wentian ended his cultivation. When he saw Mo Qingqing in contemplation, he couldn't help but to smile. Qingqing, what are you thinking about? Some questions regarding cultivation. Mo Qingqing turned and smiled when she saw Qin Wentian walking over. You can ask me. If I don't understand, you can consult Senior White and the others. Qin Wentian walked to the side of Mo Qingqing and spoke in a gentle voice. MHM. Mo Qingqing nodded. Oh yeah, the Taishan Immortal King sent someone over a few days ago. He said that after you finished your cultivation, you should head over to his place. He seems to have something to discuss with you. Okay. Qin Wentian nodded. Let me accompany you for a chat first. I will head over tomorrow. You should go first. Since Senior Taishan Immortal King is looking for you, it must be an important matter. Mo Qingqing shook her head, her beautiful eyes staring at Qin Wentian. All right then, I will be right back. Qin Wentian pinched Mo Qingqing's beautiful face. After that, he headed in the direction of the immortal palace of the Taishan Immortal King. Qin Wentian found the Taishan Immortal King and bowed. Senior is looking for me? MHM, there's something I should tell you. The Taishan Immortal King nodded. Senior, please speak. Qin Wentian replied. You are still young and you came from a particle world. I'm sure you aren't very familiar with the history of the Evergreen Kingdom. Let me give you a simple explanation. The Taishan Immortal King spoke. Back then, a civil war erupted in the Evergreen Kingdom. The Chongqing the Great fought against another person for the authority to rule the empire. Both sides had many supporters and the empire was in a state of turmoil. In this turmoil, there was another empire that participated. The neighboring empire of the Evergreen Kingdom, the powerful Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. They supported the opponent of the Chongqing the Great. Qin Wentian quietly listened. He truly didn't understand much about this war, but he did know that Qing'er was sent to a particle world because of this. From this, one could very well imagine how severe the situation the Chongqing the Great was facing back then must have been. If not, he wouldn't have hidden his daughter, Qing'er, in a particle world and even cut off all contact with her. This way, even if the Chongqing the Great died, Qing'er would still be able to live on safely. As for the details of the war, it was naturally impossible for him to know. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom has an ancient history and is extremely powerful, far surpassing the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures. Back then, in order to gain the support of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, the opponent of the Chongqing the Great once promised that within 1,000 years, he would marry the most outstanding princess of the Evergreen Kingdom to the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. In fact, back then, he even sent some of the princesses of the younger generations to the Heavenly Mist Kingdom. This means that the clan of the opponent of the Chongqing the Great hasn't been completely annihilated yet. They have married into the royal clan of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. Qin Wentian was startled. Such an action would cause others to despise him. But he could also foresee that in the war between the Chongqing the Great and the opponent, both sides had no confidence in winning. Now the people of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom have arrived at the royal city of the Evergreen Kingdom, and presented the letter of credence, wanting the Evergreen Kingdom to fulfill the agreement. The Taishan Immortal King calmly spoke. However, Qin Wentian's gaze froze. His eyes gradually narrowed as a cold light flickered within. This wasn't a promise made by the Chongqing the Great. What qualifications does the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom have to make the Chongqing the Great fulfill the agreement? Qin Wentian asked. In an instant he thought of Qing'er. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom definitely had ill intentions. Although that's the case, the opponent of the Chongqing the Great also had the authority to speak in the empire. He represented the Evergreen Kingdom to make the agreement. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom wanted the Evergreen Kingdom to fulfill the agreement. Although it's a little unreasonable, it can be considered as having a good reason to do so. The Taishan Immortal King continued. I'm afraid this matter is disadvantageous to the Evergreen Kingdom. Not only that, it would also affect Princess Qing'er. Qing'er has entered the tutelage of GD and is now cultivating under GD. GD should stand on the side of Qing'er and the Chongqing the Great. Qin Wentian spoke. He naturally had an understanding of Qing'er's master. Matriarch Ji was proficient in spatial energy and was an extremely powerful immortal emperor character. I know this point. However, there's one more thing that I don't know if you are clear about. The Taishan Immortal King continued. Back then, the son of Zidi, Zidaolong, once went to the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom to pay a visit to the Chongqing the Great. Although I don't know what happened exactly, during that period of time, you were coincidentally in the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. Zidaolong should have gone there to ask for you but failed. This matter might cause Zidi to be unhappy with the Chongqing the Great. Now Zidi also has subordinates in the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He didn't expect that the Chongqing the Great had protected him back then. With regards to this father of Qing'er whom he had never met before, Qin Wentian actually had a good impression of him. Most probably, Qin Wentian also loved Qing'er very much, right? Let me tell you one more thing. In the past, the relationship between Zidi and the Chongqing the Great has always been pretty good. In fact, there's even a rumor saying that the two of them might be from the same sect. It's just that there's a slight difference in their ages and they were in different eras. Zidi and the Chongqing the Great could be considered to have some sort of friendship, at least on the surface. The Taishan Immortal King continued. Qin Wentian recalled the words Zidaoyang had said to Qing'er in the past. Seems like it wasn't a lie. Zidaoyang could be considered to have died an unjust death. He must have been plotted against by Wuxia. Many thanks for Senior's information. Qin Wentian bowed. The Taishan Immortal King was a direct subordinate of the heaven-changing monarch, and he naturally knew quite a lot of information. Seems like he was paying close attention to the Evergreen Kingdom. What are your thoughts? The Taishan Immortal King asked. I wish to make a trip to the Evergreen Kingdom, Qin Wentian replied. Sure. The Taishan Immortal King had a smile on his face, as though he had long known that Qin Wentian would do this. This caused Qin Wentian to feel a little bewildered. He didn't know what the Taishan Immortal King meant by this. I will send someone to accompany you there. The Taishan Immortal King smiled. We will use the identity of the Immortal Champion Gate to pay a visit to the Evergreen Kingdom. This. Qin Wentian stared at the Taishan Immortal King, only to see the Taishan Immortal King patting Qin Wentian on his shoulder as he smiled. I really hope that you can marry Princess Qing'er. In that case, both the Evergreen Kingdom and GD would have a deep connection with our Immortal Champion Gate. Huh? Senior, you too. Qin Wentian was speechless. The Taishan Immortal King laughed. Why? If it wasn't for the fact that the Namhuang clan's holy maiden doesn't marry outside of the clan, I would have thought that you might be able to kidnap Namhuang Yunxi as well. Qin Wentian was completely speechless. The Taishan Immortal King's thoughts were truly ruthless. If he really did that, then the Immortal Champion Gate, the Evergreen Kingdom, GD, and the Namhuang clan would have a miraculous connection. Such a power would be sufficient to shock many experts in the immortal realms. No wonder the Taishan Immortal King encouraged him to go to the Southern Phoenix Immortal City back then. It seemed like he harbored evil intentions. Chapter 1100. In the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. Other than the years of chaos, this ancient and powerful royal capital was firmly controlled by the royal clan. No one dared to act recklessly in the royal capital. Everyone in the royal capital was under the protection of the empire. This was just like the Southern Phoenix Immortal City. If a city wanted to flourish, it had to have its own rules, giving its citizens a sense of security. Only then would the city be able to attract powerful experts, allowing them to settle their families in the city. At the same time, it would also be able to increase the number of transactions in the city, causing it to flourish even more. This was a virtuous cycle. Right now, in the royal palace of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, there were already experts from all directions rushing in. A huge storm was brewing, as though a storm was brewing. These experts included many major powers from the eastern regions of the immortal realms, including Immortal Emperor-ranked powers. They naturally came because of the Sky Mist Immortal Empire's visit to the Evergreen Immortal Empire. They wanted to see how the Sky Mist Immortal Empire would progress after presenting the letter to the Evergreen Immortal Empire. Everyone was very clear what sort of character the Evergreen Immortal Emperor was. He would definitely not compromise so easily. In that case, would the Sky Mist Immortal Empire give up so easily? At this moment, in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, a group of figures could be seen strolling about. This group of people exuded an extraordinary aura. Just by casually standing there, they gave off a feeling of reverence, causing the passers-by to cast sidelong glances at this group of people. Those people should be immortal kings. I can't see their depths. Are they a power of our royal capital, or an external power? A passerby asked curiously. They should be an external power. During these few days, there have been many major powers visiting the royal capital. It's rumored that some immortal emperor-ranked powers have also arrived, causing quite a commotion. A few days ago, a battle occurred in the royal capital. The cause seems to be the Celestial Palace. The Celestial Palace is similarly located in the vicinity of our Evergreen Kingdom, and is an immortal emperor-ranked power. The Palace Lord of the Celestial Palace is extremely powerful. It's rumored that his strength is unfathomable. That's only natural. If the Celestial Palace was weak, it would have long ceased to exist due to its location between Ziti and the Evergreen Kingdom. The people from the Supreme Sword School have also arrived. That group of sword cultivators all exuded a paragon's sharpness. It's rumored that they can kill with a single glance. Qin Wentian listened attentively. Many people were discussing about the major powers of the eastern regions. The eastern regions were different from the southern regions. In the southern regions, there were 3 extremely ancient clans, and no other powers could stand shoulder to shoulder with them. Hence, many powers established by immortal emperors had no way to expand their influence. In the eastern region, the power balance was more balanced. There were more immortal emperor-ranked powers. Once, the eastern Sage 13 prefectures were governed by the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, while on the other side was the Beast God sect of the Great Snow Mountain. The Evergreen Kingdom was located in the central region of the eastern region, and was surrounded by many major powers. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures, the Celestial Palace, the Supreme Sword School and others were all located in the surrounding regions. Naturally, there were also some powerful characters who didn't govern vast regions, but their influence was still extremely great. An example was Ziti and GD. Strictly speaking, Ziti could be considered to be located in the central region of the immortal realms. Other than this, there was also a powerful ancient dynasty like the Taihua Immortal Dynasty, as well as many reclusive powers in the eastern regions. Qin Wentian also researched the major powers of the eastern regions, and felt extremely shocked in his heart. The immortal realms were simply too vast. Just in the eastern region alone, there were already so many terrifying powers. There were also many immortal emperor-ranked powers that had yet to establish a major power. These were merely at the immortal emperor level. As for immortal king-level powers, There were simply too many of them to count. Seniors, let's find an inn to stay in first. Qin Wentian spoke. This group of people was none other than the immortal Qianbian Gate, as well as Qin Wentian's group. Among them, there were several immortal kings that accompanied Qin Wentian here. Since they wanted to pay a visit to the Evergreen Kingdom, their group naturally couldn't be too weak. You have the final say in this. Someone at the side spoke in a low voice, allowing Qin Wentian to make the decision. Okay, Junior won't be polite then. Qin Wentian nodded lightly. He first found an inn to stay in. There were restaurants and honest people mixed in here, and it was easy to hear news from all directions. And as expected, after Qin Wentian sat here for a period of time, he heard someone sighing about the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. After the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom sent their letter, there hasn't been any movement from them. They didn't even enter the Evergreen Kingdom's Imperial Palace. I have no idea what they mean by this. But now the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom finally made a move. However, they didn't enter the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Instead, they invited their friends from all over to have a gathering. This gathering was initiated by a prince of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, saying that it was a gathering of heroes from all over the world. I have no idea what they are thinking. I think the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom is intentionally creating a storm, afraid that everyone in the world wouldn't know about the agreement between the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Evergreen Kingdom. Someone laughed. This time around, the person who issued the invitation is Tenlon Hai, a prince of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. However, it's rumored that this person is a silk pants and is over 300 years old. Yet his cultivation base is only at the 3rd level of Immortal Foundation. Although his talent is outstanding, to the princes of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, it can only be considered barely enough. It's rumored that he likes beauties and is a pompous person, far inferior compared to the other princes. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom wanted the Evergreen Kingdom to fulfill the agreement, because they wanted their princess to marry this silk pants prince. If this is the case, there's no doubt that they are intentionally humiliating the princesses of the Evergreen Kingdom. Is everyone interested in going over to take a look? Someone asked. Where is the time and location? Many people were interested to join in the fun. Although they weren't qualified to be invited, it wasn't a problem for them to watch from afar. 2 days later, the location is set to be at the Juxian Inn. That person replied. Many people clasped their hands in greeting. Qin Wentian silently drank a cup of wine before he stood up and departed. The prince of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, Tenlon Hai. 2 days later, at the rooftop of the Juxian Inn, there were many pavilions. The terrain here was very high, and the view was extremely good. There were many people seated in the pavilions, admiring the beauties dancing on the stage. The dancers were all clad in thin robes, revealing their jade-white skin. Their faces were veiled and their figures were voluptuous, with slender waists. When they danced, they gave off a feeling of softness. That sexy dance caused the hearts of the spectators to be filled with joy, even causing their blood to boil. Beauties, fine wine, how joyous. Sitting in the upper pavilion was a young man with a fair complexion and a somewhat luxurious temperament. As he drank, his eyes wandered over the dancing beauties on the stage in front of him. Occasionally, lightning flashed in his eyes, revealing a strange luster. Your Highness Hai truly knows how to enjoy life. Someone laughed. In Tenlon Hai's eyes, there were only beauties. Immortals live for a lifetime. How long would it be? Wouldn't it be a pity if he didn't enjoy the beauty of the mortal world? Although they are beautiful, their charm is too strong. I'm afraid they have been toyed with by many before. In another pavilion, several young men could be seen. Their auras were extremely sharp, and there were no impurities in their eyes. When they stared at the beauties, their gazes were filled with disdain, as though they didn't even spare a glance at these beauties. Haha, the sword arts of the Supreme Sword School are so sharp, their words are so sharp as well. What kind of beauties can they be considered as beauties in your eyes? Tenlon Hai asked. Pure beauty, flawless and flawless. Someone replied. I'm afraid that this kind of woman is extremely rare, said Sky Mist Hai. Is this true? Isn't the reason why the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom came here? Another person spoke. That person was clad in luxurious robes, and was clearly someone from the Taihua Immortal Dynasty. It was none other than an expert from the Taihua Immortal Dynasty, a major power in the eastern regions. Sky Mist High's eyes flickered as a faint light flickered in them. He swept his gaze over the people sitting in the pavilions. These young men sitting in the pavilions of the Juxian Tower were all people with status and extraordinary auras. Although Sky Mist High didn't say it out loud, ordinary people wouldn't dare to casually sit in these pavilions. Qin Wentian was also sitting in a pavilion. Beside him, there were two other young men sitting there quietly. They were people from the Battle Saint tribe. This time around, Jun Mingchen didn't come. He was in closed-door seclusion, preparing to break through to the second level of Immortal Foundation. Little Rascal and Purgatory also accompanied Qingqing in her cultivation. It's rumored that Princess Qing'er and Princess Lioli of the Evergreen Kingdom are both as pure as ice and as pure as jade. They can be considered as flawless beauties? Tenlon Hai asked. I've heard of it before, but I've never seen it for myself. Someone laughed. Your Highness Hai, could it be? This time around, my Tenlon Heaven Kingdom came to the Evergreen Kingdom. I'm sure everyone has heard about it. Back then, the Evergreen Kingdom promised that within 1,000 years, they would marry their most outstanding princess into the royal clan of my Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. Our Tenlon Heaven Kingdom naturally wouldn't forget this. This time around, we intentionally came here to propose marriage to the Evergreen Kingdom. I believe that as an immortal emperor character, Senior Chongqing the Great would naturally agree to it. Tenlon Hai smiled. What do you all think? I have no idea. The experts from the Taihua Immortal Dynasty laughed. For such a matter, they naturally wouldn't express their stance so easily. Could it be that this marriage proposal is for your highness? A voice drifted over. Tenlon Hai laughed as he pointed to the beautiful maidens dancing in front of him. If I can make Princess Qing'er or Princess Lioli dance in front of me, how happy would that be? When everyone saw that Tenlon Hai was in such high spirits, their expressions all froze as they rubbed their wine cups in silence. These words were extremely disrespectful to the two princesses. Wanting Princess Qing'er and Princess Lioli to dance in front of him? This Tenlon Hai truly dared to dream. Or could it be that the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom was determined to do this? Puchi. An untimely laughter suddenly rang out. The gazes of everyone in the pavilion turned over, staring at a pavilion in the corner. There were 3 young men there, and the one in the middle had the weakest cultivation base. The laughter originated from him. He lowered his head and stared at the table, his slender fingers toying with the wine cup in his hand. His gaze was filled with coldness. What are you laughing at? Tenlon Hai's eyes gleamed with ruthlessness. He inclined his head and stared in the direction of Qin Wentian, similarly toying with his wine cup. Chapter 1101. Qin Wentian placed his wine cup down, causing a light sound to ring out. He slowly inclined his head, staring at Sky Mist High as a faint smile could be seen on his face. However, at this moment, his lips were as sharp as swords, and his smile contained a sharpness akin to swords. I heard that His Highness Tenlon Hai only reached the 3rd level of Immortal Foundation after a few hundred years. Given his talent, do you think he can win against Princess Qing'er and Princess Lioli? Qin Wentian spoke in a light voice. His voice was filled with mockery. Tenlon Hai was only at the 3rd level of Immortal Foundation at the age of several hundred years. He believed that it wouldn't be long before Princess Qing'er's cultivation base would catch up to his. From a certain perspective, it was true that he wasn't worthy of Princess Qing'er and Princess Lioli. As for asking Princess Qing'er and Princess Lioli to dance for him, that was simply a joke. With regards to this point, many people here understood. However, this was a method used by the Sky Mist Immortal Empire to humiliate the Evergreen Immortal Empire. There was naturally no question of whether the Sky Mist Immortal Empire was worthy or not. In addition, if the Evergreen Immortal Empire really compromised and sent their princess to the Sky Mist Immortal Empire, it was only natural that they would be humiliated. Sky Mist High's words weren't an exaggeration. Hence, although Tenlon Hai's words sounded arrogant and disrespectful to the 2 princesses in public, It also allowed everyone to feel the attitude of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. Today, they invited the young men of the various major powers here to announce this to the world. No one would stand out to criticize Sky Mist High. However, at this moment, there seemed to be someone who spoke out in an untimely manner. This sentence was undoubtedly a slap to Sky Mist High's face, mocking him for his poor talent, and saying that he was not worthy of the two princesses. Who are you? Tenlon Hai wasn't angered immediately. He stared at Qin Wentian as he coldly asked, "Who I am doesn't seem to be important." Qin Wentian replied, "Indeed it isn't important." Tenlon Hai smiled. In the immortal realms, there are countless people dying and disappearing every day. In fact, they wouldn't even know how they died. To the vast immortal realms, their existence is meaningless. No one would even know of their disappearance, and no one would pay attention to them. There's some logic in your words. Let alone ordinary people. Even if a prince of an immortal empire died one day, there wouldn't be any ripples in the immortal realms. This is especially so for those ordinary princes. Their disappearance wouldn't even attract the attention of their respective immortal empires, because they were insignificant existences. Qin Wentian smiled as he drank his wine, as though he was mumbling to himself. The words of the two of them were filled with hidden meanings, as though they were competing with each other. The others quietly watched. The people here all had extraordinary statuses. Even the weakest among them was a member of the younger generation from an immortal king power. All of them stared at Qin Wentian with interest. This man dared to directly clash with Tenlon Hai. Although it was just a verbal exchange, it was clear that he wasn't an ordinary character. Also, since he wanted to protect the Evergreen Heaven Kingdom, he most probably had some connections in the Evergreen Heaven Kingdom. Tenlon Hai also thought of this point. He stared at Qin Wentian and smiled. If Princess Qing'er and Princess Liuli were to marry into my Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, and become my wives and concubines, how difficult would it be for them to dance before me? Even if I become a cripple, they would still have to serve their husbands well, right? That's your wishful thinking. Qin Wentian laughed mockingly. You don't even know your own capabilities. The agreement between the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Evergreen Heaven Kingdom has nothing to do with my capabilities. Tenlon Hai's gaze grew colder and colder. Qin Wentian's words were full of sarcasm, and it was extremely piercing to his ears. Agreement? Qin Wentian mocked disdainfully. The agreement between the previous dynasty's traders and the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. You want the Chongqing the Great to fulfill it? Is it that if you, Tenlon Hai, make an agreement with others one day, you want the entire Tenlon Heaven Kingdom to fulfill it? This is an agreement between the two great celestial kingdoms. Moreover, the Evergreen Kingdom has fulfilled this agreement before. Now, there are princesses of the Evergreen Kingdom as concubines in my Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. Now that the Chongqing the Great is in charge of the Evergreen Kingdom, how could he break the agreement? Tenlon Hai said coldly. And you have a sharp tongue. I, Tenlon Hai, am a member of the royal family of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. When I come to the imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom, I am also a guest of the Celestial Kingdom. You disrespect me and insult a member of the royal family of a friendly kingdom. Even if I kill you, the Evergreen Kingdom will not say a word. You? Qin Wentian looked at Tenlon Hai and smiled. If you can kill me, I will accept it. Looking at Qin Wentian's undisguised disdainful smile, Tenlon Hai's expression became sharper and sharper. With a wave of his hand, the sexy women dancing on the stage left one after another. Clearly, Tenlon Hai had lost the mood to appreciate the dance. You are really boasting shamelessly, Tenlon Hai said calmly. He looked around at the crowd and said, among the heroes here, there are many who are stronger than you. Only you are arrogant and ignorant. I wonder if there are any friends who are willing to teach this person a lesson on my behalf? I'm not interested in the children of ordinary nobles. The voice of the young man from the Supreme Sword School was as sharp as ever. Evidently, many people here treated Qin Wentian as a nobility disciple of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. This was why they dared to go against Tenlon Hai here, protecting Princess Qing'er and Princess Liuli. The people from the Taihua Immortal Dynasty and Celestial Palace didn't say anything. They didn't seem to be interested at all. They only came here to watch the show. If it was just a simple spar, they might be interested. But being dragged into the conflict between the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Evergreen Kingdom wasn't something they wanted. Qin Wentian quietly stood there. At this moment, a figure stood up from the pavilion he was in. This person had an extraordinary cultivation base and his aura surged. He was a peak-level Immortal Foundation expert with tyrannical strength. He was an expert from the Solar Sky Mountain in the Sky Mist Immortal Empire, and the Solar Sky Mountain was an extremely powerful power. Let me advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Qin Wentian brought his wine cup to his lips. He didn't even glance at the person who stood up as he coldly spoke. The eyes of that expert from the Solar Sky Mountain froze. After a moment of hesitation, he stepped out, moving towards Qin Wentian's direction as a fearsome aura gushed forth from him. In just an instant, a blazing heat gushed towards Qin Wentian, causing the entire space to be engulfed in flames, as though it was on the verge of burning. Qin Wentian spoke. A moment later, the young man from the Battle Saint tribe beside him placed his wine cup down and stood up, walking forward. His entire body gleamed with a bright light as he retracted his aura. The powerful immortal might he exuded didn't affect his surroundings at all. The two of them walked towards each other step by step. Finally, they faced each other in the middle. In an instant, a terrifying bolt of lightning and fire enveloped the two of them. This circular light screen was filled with endless destructive power. It swept towards Qida, who was inside the light screen. The lightning-like flames struck Qida's body, but they seemed to be blocked by the dazzling pattern on the outside. The gazes of everyone turned to the center. The auras of the two of them were completely retracted into the light screen. As long as the slightest bit of that stifling pressure was released, the entire Juxian Tower would be reduced to smithereens. Boom. A bolt of lightning flashed as the two of them disappeared at the same time along with the circular light screen, appearing high up in the sky. Many people raised their heads and stared at the sky, only to see a blinding light. The light of destruction finally unleashed an explosive power, causing the sky to seem like it was about to explode. A beam of light of annihilation rained down from the sky. Qin Wentian's eyes didn't look at the battle in the air. There was basically no need to look, and he already knew the ending. And as expected, an instant later, a scream of misery rang out. The immortal foundation of that expert from the Solar Sky Mountain was destroyed as he fell from the air. The experts from the Solar Sky Mountain all stood up as their auras gushed forth. Qida descended from the air, standing behind Qin Wentian as though nothing had happened. At the end of the battle, Qin Wentian poured the wine in his cup into his mouth as he spoke. I've said it before, don't meddle in other people's business. The experts from the Solar Sky Mountain all stepped out. Qida's silhouette flickered as he appeared in front of Qin Wentian, blocking his path. A fearsome might gushed forth from him like a tempest, as thunderous rumbling sounds could be heard in the air. The platform beneath his feet crumbled apart as the pavilions in the surroundings crumbled apart. Busy. A tyrannical aura gushed over. This was the aura of an immortal king. In an instant, an immortal king from the Solar Sky Mountain appeared. The instant he appeared, his might enveloped Qin Wentian and Qida. But at the same time, a booming voice rang out. Who dares to be so insolent in the royal capital of my evergreen kingdom? As the sound of his voice faded, a group of immortal kings appeared in the air, staring straight at the immortal king from the Solar Sky Mountain. You guys are the ones causing trouble? Did you all not see that earlier he crippled the immortal foundation of one of my sect members? The immortal king from the Solar Sky Mountain pointed at the immortal king who was crippled. A peak-level immortal foundation expert. Although he wasn't a core disciple, he was still extraordinary. Yet he was crippled just like that. Indeed, I didn't see it. The reply from the immortal king from the Evergreen Kingdom infuriated the immortal king. Clearly, he was lying. Most probably, everything that happened here was seen by them. Who were the enemies of the Evergreen Kingdom? Who were friends? Who were neutral? All of them could be seen clearly by them. Could it be that because they are from the Evergreen Kingdom, all of you are intentionally shielding them? The immortal king from the Solar Sky Mountain spoke. That immortal king from the Evergreen Kingdom stared at Qin Wentian as he asked. Are they from the Evergreen Kingdom? Why don't I know anything about them? That's just what some people think they are. Qin Wentian laughed, his words causing the eyes of everyone to flicker as they stared at Qin Wentian. If he wasn't from the Evergreen Kingdom, he still dared to be so arrogant? Because of the Evergreen Princess and Princess Lioli, he directly stood in opposition to a prince of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom? Among the major powers of the eastern regions, there weren't many who could stand against the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. If Qin Wentian wasn't from the Evergreen Kingdom, he definitely wasn't one of those who could stand against the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. In that case, the guts of this man was truly great. A cold smile flickered in the eyes of Tenlon Hai. Chapter 1102. Tenlon Hai rapped his knuckles on the table. He stared at Qin Wentian as a sinister smile appeared on his face. I'm not someone from the Evergreen Kingdom. Tenlon Hai stared at the calm look in Qin Wentian's eyes as he smiled. In that case, do you love Princess Qin or Princess Lioli? It's understandable if you are impulsive for the sake of the person you love. But right now, this isn't a good thing. At this moment, a few figures suddenly appeared beside Sky Mist High, exuding terrifying auras. Not only for Sky Mist High's side, there were also experts appearing beside the other geniuses from the various powers. These were all immortal kings, but after they appeared, they merely stood there calmly, as though they were here to watch the show. My Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Evergreen Kingdom are in-laws. Now that I'm here to propose marriage to the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom, I can also be considered an honored guest of the Evergreen Kingdom. Right now, Tenlon Hai was insulted by an outsider. I believe that all of you wouldn't mind if I kill him, right? Tenlon Hai tapped his fingers on the table as he stared at the experts from the Evergreen Kingdom. His calm voice contained an unmasked killing intent. Naturally not. A melodious voice drifted over. From afar, a group of silhouettes could be seen riding on greater demons. In fact, there was even an extremely beautiful young lady riding on a azure luan. This young lady exuded an extraordinary aura of nobility and elegance. Her eyes shone with a brilliant light, and beside her, there were many experts protecting her. There was also a beautiful middle-aged woman walking beside her, exuding a similarly noble aura. Qin Wentian turned his head and stared at these people. There were many familiar faces among them. Princess Lioli was someone he met before at the Dongshengshan Gate. Beside Princess Lioli was actually Qin Er's aunt, Princess Changping. Princess Changping and her husband were both here. Beside her was her husband, the Scarlet Eye Marquis. Tenlon Hai's gaze instantly landed on Princess Lioli. His gaze roamed over her graceful figure, and a hint of lust could be seen within. We pay our respects to Princess Changping, Princess Lioli and the Scarlet Eye Marquis. The soldiers of the Evergreen Immortal Empire bowed, their actions causing the eyes of everyone to flash as they stared at the newcomer. So it turned out that this beautiful young woman was none other than Princess Glaze. Truly a phoenix among humans. Princess Lioli. Tenlon Hai smiled. This was also the first time he met Princess Lioli. He was very satisfied. If he could marry her and make her his concubine, it would truly be a wonderful thing in the world to make a noble lady like Princess Lioli dance for him. Tenlon Heaven Kingdom's Tenlon Hai pays his respects to the two princesses. Tenlon Hai spoke, yet he still sat there unmoving. The royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom forbids killing. Princess Changping stared at Tenlon Hai as she emotionlessly spoke. But he crippled the immortal foundation of an expert earlier? Tenlon Hai pointed to Chida who was beside Qin Wentian. Did he? Princess Changping stared at Qin Wentian as she asked. He was the one who provoked me first, wanting to kill me. The law enforcers of the Evergreen Kingdom have yet to arrive, so Junior could only protect himself. My attacks were a little too heavy. I hope Princess can understand. Qin Wentian clasped his hands to Princess Changping. The two of them were already acquainted with each other, and naturally had a tacit understanding of each other. So this is the case. In that case, you guys were the one who violated the rules of the royal capital first, and he had no choice but to retaliate. Princess Changping coldly stared at the experts of the Solar Sky Mountain, clearly wanting to protect Qin Wentian. What logic is this? My subordinate had his immortal foundation crippled, yet he was the one in the wrong. The experts of the Solar Sky Mountain were unconvinced. Since you also feel that your logic is logical, why don't both of you follow me to the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom? I will investigate this matter in detail. How about it? The Scarlet Eye Marquis took a step forward, staring at the experts of the Solar Sky Mountain. His eyes gleamed with a scarlet light, causing people to feel fear in their hearts. The experts of the Solar Sky Mountain weren't so foolish as to believe the words of the Evergreen Kingdom. Humph! That expert snorted coldly, feeling extremely unhappy. In that case, we should just forget about him humiliating me like this? Tenlon Hai continued. Although he had the reputation of being a silk pants, he wasn't a good person. How could he let this matter rest so easily? What do you want? The Scarlet Eye Marquis stared at Tenlon Hai as he spoke. It's not that our Tenlon Heaven Kingdom wants to do anything. No matter what, we are guests here. If your Evergreen Kingdom doesn't have a way to deal with this, our Tenlon Heaven Kingdom can only use our own methods to deal with this. An immortal king behind Tenlon Hai spoke in an extremely domineering manner. What method does your Tenlon Heaven Kingdom have? The Scarlet Eye Marquis coldly asked. Kill. The other party spat out a single word, not polite at all. Haha, what arrogant words. A hearty laughter rang out, causing the entire space to tremble. After that, a few more experts flew over, directly appearing behind Qin Wentian as they stared ahead. How will you kill him? That person coldly spoke. From afar, countless experts in the surroundings stared in the direction of the Jiuxian Tower, as waves of emotions rose in their hearts. How interesting, more and more experts appeared. This young man who dared to stand against Tenlon Hai seemed to be an extraordinary character as well. Although he wasn't someone from the Evergreen Kingdom, he still dared to challenge the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. Who are you exactly? Tenlon Hai stared at Qin Wentian. Being able to have an immortal king as a bodyguard, his identity definitely wouldn't be simple. Even if his status couldn't be compared to the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, he should still have an immortal emperor backing him. A guest of the Evergreen Kingdom. Princess Changping coldly stared at Tenlon Hai. Unlike a certain person who says that he is a guest but actually dares to insult the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom. Such a disrespectful guest. Forgive me for not welcoming you. Does the Evergreen Kingdom want to break their promise? The immortal king behind Tenlon Hai coldly spoke. The current Evergreen Immortal Emperor has never made any promises to your Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, nor did he have any agreements with you guys. Everyone in the world knows this point. How could he break his promise? Princess Changping spoke. Very good. In that case, we will naturally pay a visit to Chongqing the Great to discuss this matter. That immortal king laughed coldly when he saw the domineering attitude of Princess Changping. After that, he pointed to Qin Wentian and spoke. But this man, even if he is a guest of the Evergreen Kingdom, he actually dared to humiliate a prince of my Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. This debt has to be settled no matter what. That's right. No matter what identity he has, my Tenlon Heaven Kingdom has to pay the price today. The agreement between the Evergreen Kingdom and the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom isn't something a brat who's still wet behind the ears can talk about. Is he even worthy? An immortal king at the side also spoke in a domineering manner. Since Princess Changping didn't want to acknowledge the agreement, they would temporarily not mention this matter. But today they invited the experts of the eastern regions here. How could they allow the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom to lose face? Hence, it was imperative to make an example out of Qin Wentian. No matter what identity Qin Wentian had, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom didn't care at all. Since the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom is so domineering, I really want to know if the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom has the qualifications to be domineering. Princess Changping's expression turned heavy. Since you want him to pay the price, we can do it according to the rules of my Evergreen Kingdom. Since you said that this brat humiliated your prince, Tenlon Hai, then Tenlon Hai can step out and kill him. My Evergreen Kingdom will definitely not interfere. The expressions of the experts from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom froze. This Princess Changping was so confident in this young man? Why, you don't dare? Princess Changping spoke. If the so-called domineering attitude of your Tenlon Heaven Kingdom is to bully others, then I'm sorry. In my Evergreen Kingdom, no one is allowed to do so, regardless of who it is. It doesn't matter if I dare or not. It's just that he isn't worthy enough for a prince of my Tenlon Heaven Kingdom to act personally. The immortal king from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom coldly spoke. From your words, it seems that the Evergreen Kingdom is going to protect this young man no matter what. It's not that my Evergreen Kingdom has to protect him. It's anyone who dares to enter the royal capital of my Evergreen Kingdom. They have to abide by the rules of my Evergreen Kingdom. The Scarlet Eye Marquis tyrannically spoke. If the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom wanted to do whatever they wanted in their royal capital, wouldn't they be the laughingstock of the entire world? Since the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom dared to use the agreement of the past to demand for Qin Wentian, they naturally had to show them how domineering they were. It was impossible for a princess of an immortal empire to marry Tianlan. Since this is the case, fine. Let's follow the rules of the Evergreen Kingdom then. The immortal king behind Tenlon High spoke. He glanced at the surroundings as he continued. This time around, we came to pay a visit to the Evergreen Kingdom, but haven't had the chance to personally pay our respects. 3 days later, the men of my Tenlon Heaven Kingdom will head to the Evergreen Kingdom Palace to pay our respects. Firstly, we will pay our respects to our in-laws and friends, and secondly, we will allow our juniors to exchange pointers on the martial Dao, improving our relationship. At that time, I would like to invite all the major powers here to come along. How about it? If the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom sincerely wishes to be our guests, the Evergreen Kingdom would welcome all of you. The Scarlet Eye Marquis spoke. Can you make the decision? The immortal king stared at the Scarlet Eye Marquis as he tyrannically spoke. Since Marquis has spoken, I naturally can make the decision. However, as the host, my Evergreen Kingdom doesn't need your Tenlon Heaven Kingdom to invite us. At that time, if the major powers of the Evergreen Kingdom wish to enter our palace, we will welcome all of you. Since Princess Lioli is so straightforward, we shall temporarily forget about this matter today. That immortal king laughed loudly. He stared at Qin Wentian and the others. According to the rules of the Evergreen Kingdom, as long as both parties are willing, we can still settle some grudges. No matter who you are, I hope that when the time comes, don't hide and refuse to come out. Farewell. Tenlon Hai stood up, glancing at everyone as he smiled. Everyone, let's meet again 3 days later. As he spoke, his gaze turned to Qin Wentian as he pointed his wine cup at Qin Wentian. After that, he slowly tilted the cup downwards, causing the wine in it to drip onto the ground. I hope you can always be so gutsy. Tenlon Hai laughed. After that, he turned and departed. The group of them left in an extremely arrogant manner. The eyes of everyone flickered as they stared at their departing backs. 3 days later, they would enter the Evergreen Kingdom Palace with ill intentions. Farewell. The experts from the various powers clasped their hands and departed. Very swiftly at the Juxian Inn, Qin Wentian glanced at Princess Chongping and the others as he smiled. Princess Marquis. Why? You know that Qing'er has something to do, so you intentionally came to the Evergreen Kingdom? Princess Chongping smiled as she stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. Do you want to follow me to the royal palace? Princess Chongping asked. No need. 3 days later, I will pay my respects there. Qin Wentian spoke. Princess Chongping nodded. Okay, let's meet again 3 days later. Chapter 1103. The news of the Celestial Gathering Tower quickly spread throughout the Celestial Nation Imperial City. Although there were no violent clashes, both the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Evergreen Kingdom seemed to have hinted at their attitudes. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom sent Prince Tenlon Hai to appear. His words were disrespectful to Princess Qing and Princess Lioli, hinting at his determination to marry the two princesses back to Sky Mist. The Evergreen Kingdom had no choice but to break the agreement. The Evergreen Kingdom also sent important figures to appear. Chongqing the Great's younger sister, Princess Chongping, and the White Emperor's daughter, Princess Lioli personally appeared. Their responses were just as forceful, hinting that they did not intend to fulfill the agreement that had nothing to do with Chongqing the Great. In reality, the conflict that day did not require the appearance of the two princesses, but since they had appeared, it was clear that they were expressing their attitude. Everyone's gazes began to focus on the palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. There were even some experts who headed towards the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Princess Liuli's voice rang out. All forces in the imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom were allowed to enter the palace. The doors of the palace were opened wide, welcoming guests. This would be a direct confrontation between the two neighboring countries, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Evergreen Kingdom. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom had already proposed a spar, clearly intending to embarrass the Evergreen Kingdom. Although it was tactful, and they had even dragged in the various forces, their goal was clear. They wanted to use this opportunity to suppress the arrogance of the Evergreen Kingdom, and even directly enter the Evergreen Kingdom Palace to fight. 3 days to an immortal empire was simply too short. In the blink of an eye, experts from all directions gathered outside the imperial palace of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, as they stared at the majestic palace in front of them. This place was the territory governed by the Evergreen Immortal Empire, and there were many kings and marquises residing there. Only those who were famous would be able to enter the imperial palace and stay there. This was a glory, a symbol of one's status and status. The towering gates of the palace gleamed with a resplendent silvery light, as though it was forged from divine weapons. At this moment the gates opened, revealing an ancient pathway paved with immortal jades. If one followed this pathway, they would be able to enter the royal palace. At this moment, from afar, a group of experts could be seen flying over. This group of experts numbered in the hundreds, and they were all mounted on greater demons. These greater demons exuded a terrifying baleful aura, and the one in the lead was actually an incomparably gigantic white tiger. The baleful aura it exuded was extremely tyrannical, and its gaze was filled with coldness. This was none other than the slaughter god White Tiger. The one sitting on the back of the White Tiger was a young man clad in aqua blue robes. He exuded a heroic bearing, exuding a sense of handsomeness. He had a feathered crown on his head, and his status was extremely lofty. Also, his aura was extremely powerful, indicating that he was an immortal king expert. Beside him, there was a beautiful woman who exuded an aura of nobility. Her beautiful countenance gave off a sense of sharpness, and her eyes were especially cold. Even for Tenlon Hai, he could only sit on the back of a greater demon beside them. Clearly, his status wasn't as high as the blue-robed young man. This young man was also a prince character of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, and was an immortal king prince with extremely outstanding talent. His fame in the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom wasn't something a silk pants like Tenlon Hai could compare to. Another gigantic sword whistled through the air. In the air, a group of experts rode on flying swords, exuding a sense of sharpness. These people were none other than experts from the Supreme Sword School. The group of experts from the Taihua Immortal Dynasty rode on carriages, exuding an imposing aura. The Taihua Immortal Dynasty was also an extremely tyrannical power that could dominate an area. The experts from the Celestial Palace were all mounted on different types of greater demons, exuding a fearsome aura. Many experts involuntarily opened up a path for them. Some of the ordinary mounts of the experts below were so frightened that they were trembling. More and more greater demons appeared. Ordinary demons couldn't withstand the pressure. Not only did these peak powers arrive, there were also many descendants of emperor-ranked powers. Before this, the people from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Evergreen Kingdom had invited them to spar with each other. It would naturally be beneficial for them to see the strength of the descendants of these peak powers. In addition, they also wanted to see how the conflict between the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Evergreen Kingdom would develop. These experts were all intelligent people. No matter if it was Tenlon Hai speaking rudely to the two princesses earlier, or their request to spar in the Imperial Palace, all of their actions were filled with the arrogance of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. Clearly, they wanted to suppress the Evergreen Kingdom. Hence, when they requested to spar in the Imperial Palace, the two princesses immediately agreed. In truth, they were already accepting the challenge. Qin Wentian and his group also arrived. They stood among the crowd and weren't that conspicuous. However, Tenlon Hai from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom could still easily see them. When he saw that there were many guards around Qin Wentian, although he didn't know Qin Wentian's true identity, he already understood that Qin Wentian had an immortal emperor backing him. But so what of it? You still dare to come? You truly have some guts. Tenlon Hai stared at Qin Wentian from afar. You truly overestimate yourself. Qin Wentian calmly glanced at Tenlon Hai, as though mocking Tenlon Hai for not knowing his own limits. You are still as arrogant as ever. You better pray that you can walk out of this imperial palace alive. Tenlon Hai coldly laughed. After that, he turned his gaze ahead only to see the immortal king beside him speaking. Tenlon Heaven Kingdom's Tenlon Jiang leads the envoy group of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom to pay a visit to the Evergreen Kingdom. Disciples of the Supreme Sword School come to pay a visit to the Evergreen Kingdom. More voices rang out. Qin Wentian also spoke. Immortal Qianbian Gate's Qin Wentian leads the envoy group of the Immortal Qianbian Gate to pay a visit to the Evergreen Kingdom. As the sound of his voice faded, many gazes turned to Qin Wentian. Only now did many people know his identity. It was actually the Immortal Qianbian Gate. Right now, the Dongshengshan Gate and the Immortal Qianbian Gate were fighting in the 13 prefectures. Right now, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor only had 7 prefectures. But at this moment, the envoy group of the Immortal Qianbian Gate actually had the time to pay a visit to the Evergreen Kingdom. No wonder they are so arrogant. So it turns out that they are people from the Immortal Qianbian Gate. Tenlon Hai spoke. The coldness in his eyes was as cold as ever. He didn't care that much. With the foundations of the Immortal Qianbian Gate, they couldn't even stand up against the Dongshengshan Gate. How would they be able to stand up against his Tenlon Heaven Kingdom? Seems like the Immortal Qianbian Gate was too complacent. This Qin Wentian didn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Invite them in. A voice rang out. Outside the great gates of the royal palace, more and more serving girls appeared, respectfully welcoming the guests. No matter if the Sky Mist Immortal Empire came with ill intentions or not, they still had to show proper etiquette. They mustn't make it seem like their evergreen immortal empire was lacking in manners. The experts from the various powers landed on the ground and walked towards the royal palace. Along the way, there were people welcoming them, and some of them even increased their pace, circulating their immortal energy to advance. The royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom was incomparably vast. Numerous nobility residences could be seen everywhere. If they walked on foot, it was unknown how long it would take before they could reach the depths of the royal palace. Hence, they could only increase their speed. The experts from the various powers were extremely imposing. Finally, the group of experts arrived at a majestic location. Here, the serving girls had already prepared an immortal banquet. Princess Chongping and the Scarlet Eye Marquis appeared at the host seats of the banquet. When they saw the guests, they bowed and spoke, "Welcome to my Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Are we not going to enter the Emperor Palace? My Evergreen Kingdom wishes to pay a visit to the Immortal Emperor." Tenlon Jiang stared at Princess Chongping as he calmly spoke. No matter what, they were the representatives of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. Did the Evergreen Kingdom only intend to let Princess Chongping receive them? The Immortal Emperor is busy with his cultivation and doesn't have much time. Hence, we can only receive all of you in his stead. A prince of my Evergreen Kingdom will also be here personally to receive all of you. Princess Chongping smiled. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom was so rude. Even before they entered the royal palace, they were already so rude. And now, they even wanted the Immortal Emperor to personally receive them? Wasn't a prince of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom thinking too highly of themselves? The Evergreen Kingdom would also send a prince to meet them as equals. Wanting to meet the Immortal Emperor? These people weren't even qualified. Is this a show of strength? The experts from the various powers silently mused. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom came to pay a visit to the Chongqing the Great. However, the Chongqing the Great basically didn't intend to meet them, let alone fulfill the agreement. At this moment, another group of figures flew over. Among them, Princess Lioli was among them. Beside Princess Lioli, there was a young man with extraordinary handsomeness. This young man was none other than a prince of the Evergreen Kingdom, the son of the Chongqing the Great, an immortal king expert, Chongqing Long Hao. This is His Highness Long Hao, a prince of my Evergreen Kingdom. Princess Chongping spoke. Aunt. Evergreen Long Hao called out to Princess Chongping as he swept his gaze over the banquet. Today there were actually thousands of people from the various major powers who came here, exuding a majestic aura. All of them were extraordinary characters. We pay our respects to Your Highness. Many people clasped their hands in greeting. Chongqing Long Hao smiled and nodded. Everyone is a guest, please be seated. Today, I came to the Evergreen Kingdom Palace not for the banquet. Firstly, it's to pay my respects to the immortal emperor. Secondly, it's to exchange pointers. Why is there a need to waste time here? Tenlon Jiang directly spoke even before he sat down. It's the same if Your Highness Jiang has something to say to me. I will self-destruct to convey the message to my father. As for the matter of sparring, there's no conflict between sparring and an immortal banquet. Chongqing Long Hao spoke. An expert walked to the center of the immortal banquet. He took a few steps forward, causing a bright light to shine from the ground. Rumbling sounds rang out as a battle platform slowly rose up. This battle platform was extremely large. Only now did everyone discover that the location of the immortal banquet was intentionally arranged. The experts from each side would occupy a location, leaving only the central location empty. The battle platform rose up. Clearly, the Evergreen Immortal Empire already knew how many experts would come, and had already arranged everything. This battle platform is constructed from naturally formed immortal rank materials. It can withstand the attacks from experts below the Immortal King realm without collapsing. There's also a light screen around the platform that can block the aftershocks of the battle. It won't affect everyone's enjoyment of the immortal banquet. Chongqing Long Hao spoke. Seems like if we don't properly enjoy this immortal banquet and exchange pointers, we won't be able to see the immortal emperor. Sky Miss Zhang's voice was filled with coldness, clearly unhappy. The Evergreen Immortal Empire was intentionally trying to humiliate them. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.